Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another thrill-packed edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. Today, real thoughts on WWE Unreal. Will SummerSlam's card reel in the fans? And is Will Ospreay really going out with Ken? All that and more today, and joining me for that, Hawaiian Brian, the giggling lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He's really gonna take us home tonight. The great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. I think if anyone said, put your money down on what Joe Jackson song will be referenced on a Jim Cornette show, everyone would have said Steppin' Out. That was a hit in America. But you went with a deep cut, a popular phrase of the punk movement. Is she really going out with him?
Well, if my eyes don't deceive me, there's something going wrong around here.
You like Joe Jackson?
Well, I've never met him. I can't really give you a opinion on him, but there is some things going wrong around here in a wrestling business we're going to talk about today. Holy jumping Jehoshaphat. I tell you what I did do this morning, Brian Last. I had puppy playtime. I got up early because they get up early. And from about 7 o'clock in the morning to about 9 o'clock in the morning, there were belly rubs and puppy kisses and tug of war and squeaky toy fetch and just cuddling and jumping. Did I tell you they can both get up on the couch now? And in a TV room, they can get up on the couch, then on the arm, because it's a big padded leather arm, and they can leap from there, bounding a little bit off the end table onto the kind of love seat that's next to it, where they can, and they're just everywhere. So you got to keep your eyes on these. That's why I just told you my ear is squishy. I forgot whether I took my pills or not. This is why I was so involved with the animal playtime, the puppy playtime, that I can't remember whether I took my antihistamine and my blood pressure medicine. I could have a stroke here today. But I don't want to take the second round of pills, because then I've doubled up if I did. And if that's the case, then my blood pressure would go down to 15/12, and you'd have to call somebody. What should I do?
Right. This has been puppy playtime. You realize everything you just said about puppies, if someone listened to the show and they didn't know you got 2 new puppies, they would think it was some perverted talk. Like, oh, I was rubbing the puppies and the puppies jumped into the love seat and they were just waiting for me. The puppies, I was kissing the puppies and rubbing the puppies.
I said love
like
seat,
Jerry Lawler.
not love swing. Well, I forgot Lawler gave a different meaning to puppies, but I'm talking about the original old-fashioned kind of old-school puppy. Nature Boy Buddy and Alfred Puddensworth Cornette, the brothers of destruction, the twin devils, the 2 princes, the heirs to the throne.
Which one's Kane? Which one's going to burn your house down?
Oh, quit now. Because if they ever learn to use matches, we're in trouble. Because I told you, with the first week he was here, Alfred walked over to the wall and unplugged the internet. Good boy. But we still need it. But they haven't destroyed anything of value or sentimental. They've been hell on doormats and corners of couches and chair legs and things. But they're just a little joy. 2 little joys. Little almond joys. All righty.
What does that have to do with it?
Do you know that was the first name of the Allman Brothers band? You know that, the Almond Joys.
That's right.
So anyway, we got letters from the listeners that I can't, because hold on, did Buddy pee on this? No,
everything's fun and games now until you walk up in the office like, hey, Buddy, what are you doing to the Rogers O'Connor program? And then it's going to be off the hook.
The boys we've decided that the boys are not old enough to enter the office unaccompanied. And so
you see,
I've got, because they're so bad. Well, there's so many places they can hide. Also, I lost one of them for like 5 minutes last week because I didn't realize there's a 3-inch space underneath my end tables, and he limboed. He got on his belly or whatever and kind of scooted in. The only thing I saw was his back paws. I had to pull him out by his legs.
Trying to escape.
So there's too many nooks and crannies up here. They are more adventurous than Harley ever was. She was not of Lewis and Clark type of dog. She was more like a feed me my bonbons daddy type of dog.
Like a Peg Bundy.
Yes. She was more Peg Bundy. These are more King Kong Bundy. And I'm not even going to mention the times that they've jumped up and landed in my nuts. Anyway, but having said that, moving on from, I could talk about my children all day. Would you like to see some pictures in my wallet of my kids, Brian?
I would if you had a big wallet, but you don't. You have a nice slim wallet nowadays from our friends at Ridge.
Well, that used to be the worst part of people carrying wallets, is they wanted to show you pictures of their children. I'll look at pictures of your dogs, but I don't want to see pictures of your kids. They look too much like you. I'm speaking of the royal you now, not you specifically, but all of you yous out there. That's the one worst thing about your kids, is they look too much like you. How about that? Anyway, speaking of our cult members and friends that listen to our program, we've got some mail. Matt wrote us, and I'm sorry to say that he said we've lost a cult member because his 3.5-year-old golden retriever, Archie, passed away. I guess it'd be 2 weeks ago now. He got sick real quickly, and the vet said it was multiple organ dysfunction syndrome, which I've never even heard of. So he's asking everyone to ask their vets, and I'm going to be talking to ours about that because, good Lord, haven't they made a bunch more new diseases, not only for people, but for animals? I mean, you see, back in the old days, people lived till they had beards to their crotches, and the dogs were on the porch when they were 18 years old with flies around them. And now everybody's just fucking sick. He said when I would do things around the house like cleaning or yard work, listening to the podcast, he would always be right near my side, running along the mower, and have stained green feet from a hard day's work. And his most cherished memories of Archie are listening to the shows together every weekend. So, Matt, we're sorry about that.
Very sorry for your loss, Matt.
And Ethan, and boy, I wish I could say, I don't want to give his last name, but it's a hilarious last name. So, Ethan, you know who you are. But his mom passed away on July 14th. She'd had pulmonary fibrosis for 3 years. That's a lung disease. And his mother, believe it or not, was also a fan of the podcasts. And they listened together because apparently he's from Louisville or the Louisville area, because his mom grew up going to the Louisville Gardens, and she introduced me to wrestling as a kid. And we bonded over wrestling. When OVW moved to Louisville, we were at the first show at the Davis Arena, and didn't stop going weekly until I was out of high school. I guess then she kicked you out and you had to earn your living or whatever the fuck. But he also went to some of the shows at St. Therese and was at every Six Flags shows in the summer. So anyway, it built a bond between him and his mom. So Ethan, we're sorry for her loss also, and for your incredibly hilarious last name. It'll just stay between us.
Now. What is it? Ethan Elligood?
I know it. No, it is not. It's funny to me.
What the fuck could it be?
Anyway,
is it Featherbottom? Is it Featherbottom?
It is not a member of the Featherbottom family. It's one syllable, and with a hard at the end. It's anyway.
All right. Big mistake.
And Dick, I'll say that this is obviously a made up name. Dick Clark. Sure you are. He's from Kokomo, so that may explain some things, but unfortunately, and being serious, Dick's brother passed away last month. I guess this was written in July, so maybe in June, and he was only 47. And he wanted to thank us again. Dick did for doing the shows to help keep his mind off things. And Dick, you don't need to thank us for that. So many people do, and that's the last thing you need to do at this point. But he said also, I'm from Kokomo, Indiana, where your puppies came from. And when I heard it, I was so stoked you were talking about Kokomo. Apparently you were, because I'm the only one that's talking about Kokomo. Remember, I did not have I had a great review of the Pfeffer collection, but the city surrounding it was not exactly Shangri-La. But he said, I wish I'd have known you were coming. I would have totally got you a good hookup at a restaurant in town that I work at. And that could be good or bad also, because I saw some of the restaurants in town, and it seemed like it might be feast or famine, no pun intended.
Always a great offer after the fact. You know, I wish I would have known you were in town. I would have got you a diamond ring.
If only I'd have known you were coming. I had, and then, but I'm coming next time. I'll be out of town.
That's right.
But anyway, Dick, next time we'll hook up when I get back to, something of, no, it was South Bend. I was thinking of, because I'm thinking of the Pfeffer, because we go right through Kokomo to go to South Bend. So Kokomo is even smaller than South Bend.
Do they like the song Kokomo by the Beach Boys there, or do they resent it because it is painting a tropical locale picture with beautiful women?
Yeah, I think it caused a lot of problem with the Chamber of Commerce when people kept coming expect to lay out on the beach and fucking have coconut milk. They had to refund a lot of people's fucking hotel deposits and shit when that first came out, from what I understand. But yeah, Kokomo, South Bend, DQ, SmeQ, whatever. All right. Yeah, let's go to Saipan, Brian.
Oh, come on now.
Rose from Saipan has checked in because, the regular listeners of the program know that Rose is our designated listener in Saipan. We've got at least one in every country on the globe just to keep track. And they've been undergoing bad weather there, which caused us to then ask, what the fuck is she? Is she some kind of secret agent for the CIA or an undercover agent for the FBI that she's in Saipan? And then her mom chimed in, and it got to be a whole thing. Well, here's what's going on with Rose. Hello, Jim and Brain. I'm not sure if that's
That's right.
Well, I'm sorry to bother you, but I've got another update from Saipan. I got my power back after 71 days. Can you? Oh, boy, howdy. And this is a tropical climate, I would assume, being as how they had a tropical fucking storm. But the typhoon, I can't remember what Mr. Foon's name was, come in as we last reported and wiped out her power. Got the power back after 71 days. And then over the 4th of July weekend, we got hit with another super typhoon. A super typhoon, Brian. This one was Bavi. B-A-V-I. It's not capitalized. I don't know. Maybe she just hit period before she was finished with the fucking word. But my mom, Lynette, told me that people in the Cult of Cornette Facebook group were worried that we were experiencing another Category 5 typhoon less than 3 months later. So I wanted to give an update. And I also want to say my roommate, who had never seen pro wrestling before she started living with me 2 years ago, is very entertained by your podcast and hates Russo now after listening to me ramble about him and watching Dark Side of the Ring with me. She also thinks your two dogs are very good boys, and she's a professional dog groomer and sitter, so she knows her stuff. I wonder what the dog population is like in Saipan. Are they happy creatures? Anyway, Rose closes. Thank you both for being great and supporting the people of Saipan. who now number Rose and her roommate are the only ones left sticking it out there with a bunch of dogs because the fucking weather is a rip. What do you think, Brain? You want to move to Saipan?
I don't think I'll be moving there or visiting there. Maybe get a generator, but that may be out of the question in Saipan.
Well, but here's the thing now. If the generator has to run on like some type of fuel, if they've just been wiped out by a Category 5 super typhoon, you think gas is easy to come by, or they gonna run it with lighter fluid? What I mean, that seems like they'd have extensive issues if they had no electricity for better than two months.
Seems like a great opportunity to bring over Fred Ottman for an autograph signing.
Typhoon is coming. 3 hours only. People be, oh, thank God it's going to be a quick one this time.
Are you ready for the next typhoon? Don't worry, it's Typhoon.
I think he'd probably be more popular if he changed his name to Typhoid. Oh, fuck, can you imagine these poor fucking people having typhoon? They'd be after him with pitchforks and fucking flamethrowers. Fuck you fat son of a bitch. It's your fault.
Maybe they'd see it the other way. Like, typhoon arriving here will end the typhoon curse that's befallen our little island.
No, because then somebody will remind everybody he was also the Shockmaster, and they'll say, fuck this son of a bitch is cursed too. Don't come here. We got all the cursing we need. Danhausen, can you uncurse? Can you imagine if Danhausen could go uncurse the fine people of Saipan? Why, he'd be a national hero. Why, they'd recognize him from Sai all the way over to Pan.
When the Shockmaster fell through the wall, a while after that, they tried to repackage him. They put him in a mask. Do you remember the name?
Oh, God damn it.
It was the Super Shockmaster.
Oh, my God,
so
that's
Super
right.
Typhoon could be Typhoon coming over now wearing a mask so you don't see how old he is exactly. Super Typhoon coming to Typhoon Alley.
See, I can't remember that. You just reminded me of that. I vaguely recalled that they brought him back, and then I didn't even remember the name, but were they trying to be like, this is an even greater Shockmaster, or did everybody just admit it was the same guy and he was just the Super Shockmaster now?
Well, because remember, first they made him Uncle Fred, and he would come out there like they play into it. Now he's in like a construction hat and no mask, and he just falls down. Like, it was just a joke that wouldn't end for a while, but it wasn't funny at all, and no one wanted to see that. And then they made him like this big powerhouse, the Super Shockmaster, and I don't even remember if they referenced that it was the former Shockmaster or not, but it didn't
and
last very
Uncle
long.
Fred was because that's what Dusty's, which of Dusty's
Cody.
kids?
It was Cody.
It would have been Cody. Because Fred Ottman, Typhoon Shockmaster et al., was married to Dusty's sister, correct?
I believe so.
So he was technically the uncle for Dusty's kids, and that Uncle Fred, and they were trying to. There was a big fucking guy that in the territories you could have. He would have had as long a career as he wanted. You could have booked him in each territory for 3 or 4 months, endlessly, round and round. But you couldn't put him on national TV every week for very long.
I liked him as Tugboat.
One of those type of deals.
I liked him as Tugboat when he first came in.
For
a 10-year-old kid, he was very happy. He was just, whoo, he would do his little noise and.
But all I could think of was poor Tug Taylor down in Dallas going, motherfucker, what about me? I was fucking Tug.
And he kind of looked like Bluto. You would think they would go with like a Bluto gimmick more than, just Tugboat. Just
well, but where are you going to find Popeye? Or olive oil? Because maybe like Britt Baker could have been olive oil, but where are you going to find Popeye? And then what is good as Bluto or Brutus, depending on the era, without Popeye?
Well, he looked like
and,
Bluto. I guess that was my only point. Now that I
and
have it broken down for
Pappy.
like,
See,
Poop Dead
who's
Pappy.
Who's Bluto gonna beat up? He's gonna beat up Popeye.
Oh, yeah.
He's gonna beat
Special
up
version
Poop
that you
Deck Pappy.
Yeah.
He's gonna take Wimpy's fucking burgers away, and he's gonna try to fucking maul Olive Oil like he always does. After that, he's got no opponents, no money match.
So if Uncle Bluto married Dusty's sister, what's the story? Jerry Sags is also Dusty's brother-in-law, right?
Oh God, I forgot about what.
Is that Michelle's sister? Or did Dusty have another sister? And his sister just kept marrying wrestlers.
I've lost track of the, I had them looked up on ancestry.com and I've lost track of this, but also poor Tony Zane. We could have been talking about Tony Zane right now.
What are you talking about?
Tony Zane in the mid 80s at least had a few dates because he caught some shit for it amongst the locker room. Tony Zane was one of the guys from North Georgia, along with Pee Wee Anderson and Arn, Marty Lundy, Arn Anderson, no relation. And he did jobs on Atlanta TV and worked some in the mid 80s, but he went out on a few dates with one of Dusty's daughters. Again, I don't have the genealogy tree in front of me. And it's because of his spot on the fucking lineup, that's where the subject came up and he got blistered by it. The boys just were unmerciful for a few weeks, but we called Tony Zane the human bruise. He bruised easier. He didn't have a cosmetically pleasing physique, but he could halfway work for his experience level. But he would bruise on sight. And just doing a fucking 4-minute TV squash match, he'd come back looking like he'd been in a car wreck. He got stabbed in Mid-South. He went down with Arn. They booked him to do either TV jobs or underneath, like opening matches or whatever. And they had him go out in New Orleans at the downtown auditorium to do a pull apart, whoever the main event was. And there's poor old Tony Zane, a job guy there for $50, and somebody stabbed him trying to get to whoever they were trying to stab.
Well, this has been
good times.
This has been Typhoon Talk, and once again, our correspondent in Saipan led to a topic that just went to all sorts of places.
I'm thinking Tony Zane, Tug Taylor, and Typhoon in that order would look like the evolutionary map of fat people. Anyway, we got a letter to follow up, Brian, and this is fascinating. Stuff from, we talked about, for whatever reason, I can't remember what brought it up, but on a show a couple weeks ago about the State of Oregon Athletic Commission and the bullshit that they put wrestling through. The WWE, I think it was brought up, didn't run Portland for 10 years or whatever. It didn't run the state. And WCW didn't run the state, but maybe once, whatever the fuck it was. And we mentioned kind of as an aside, because the commission, all the rules and the drug testing and blah, blah, blah. We didn't really go into detail, but we got an email from Frank Culbertson, who, along with Mike Rogers, have become the custodians of Portland and Northwest wrestling history. They've written newsletters, photography, actually promoted, refereed between the two of them. They've put the ring up and taken it down. You'd almost have to do that again, wouldn't you? They've done everything in the business, and Frank gets in touch with us from time to time, and Mike does too, but he wanted to give us some details, and this goes to show you not only why there was no major league or almost any professional wrestling in the state of Oregon for years, but it shows you how that every once in a while you get a commission and or a commissioner in your state that knows what's going on and wants to help the business because they get, X amount of tax dollars from wrestling per year in the state of wherever. And the longtime promoters always tried to, when we've read the Pfeffer letters on the show, where they were always trying to find a commissioner that was friendly or somebody that was friendly with the commissioner, right? Because they can stay out of the way and collect a lot of money and the business can prosper, or they can meddle and get a fucking bee up their bonnet for, the business for one reason or another, and it can kill it. And this Oregon situation, which I don't know if a lot of the modern folks out there and women, how could I say the younger people or the people that weren't around at the time may not remember exactly how ridiculous that the state of Oregon got to where there was just no wrestling in it. You never know when it could happen again, right? Because remember, we've also talked at length about the state of Kentucky 20 years ago and up until more recent times, being one of the strictest state maybe in the country when it comes to commission rulings and every kind of wrestling because of Ian Rotten's garbage death match wrestling causing such a stir. So it can fuck up wrestling, not only for the people running it, but also the fans who want to see it. And much like weed or an abortion, have to travel out of state, right? Would you like to hear Frank's letter now that I've preambled that? I just also to check in and make sure you're still breathing, Brian.
Yeah, this came up on the drive-thru as a question from one of the listeners, and I brought up that Mike Rogers, Ring Around the Northwest, his newsletter, covered all this in real time, and obviously Frank and Mike are partners in a lot of different publishing efforts, and yeah, I'm very curious about this. You brought up that younger fans may not be aware. Fans at that time may not be aware. It was Portland. It was off the radar in a lot of ways, and it wasn't like the aftermags. If they were going to cover Portland, we're going to cover the battle with the commission.
Well, and this whole saga took years, as you'll see, and we'll hit the high points here of just the gist of it. But he heard the question, and he says, it is true about the WWF not coming here, and thanks to me, they eventually were able to have shows here. I think TKO owes me some stock. They didn't go to Oregon for over 10 years because of the testing rules and the some of the rules in general. And he gives a brief timeline. They didn't have a commission. Apparently, the Oregon Wrestling Commission came into being on October 1st, 1987. And on January 11th, 1988, it was published in the Wrestling Observer. There was no online, so that's what things got published in back in those days. On that date, they published one of the releases of the Oregon Wrestling Commission's intentions of what they wanted to do with sport in the state of Oregon. Replace all wrestling officials with boxing officials.
Oh, what a great start. Oh my God.
That would be referees. Officials can be anything in boxing, but generally referees would be in wrestling. Use 4 ropes instead of 3. They wanted to use boxing rings, which, as we've noted, are also harder than Chinese arithmetic to fall down in, but have 4 ropes. The extensive drug testing, which we've talked about, not only was for street drugs, but for performance-enhancing drugs, and also for HIV, and also blah, blah, blah. Banning the blade, no juice. That has been a recurring theme because of the hardcore guys in a variety of places since then. But in that time period, I think that was that the first time that any commission had ever taken a stance on blood in wrestling? Brian,
I don't know. Knowledge. JJ Binns, the famous incident was at the Bash where Wahoo got a blade stuck in his head.
That's right. That's right. Yes, that's right. Pennsylvania already had the rule. Did New York have the rule? Because they sure didn't have it back in the fucking 70s in the Garden.
I don't remember if it was a rule at this point, but New York did have a stricter commission, but you can get around it, especially if you were WWE.
Right. And or especially depending on, who you were and who you knew and et cetera.
But every now and then, still, like, even at a late date at a garden show, like, one match would just have some bullshit referee you didn't see on any other wrestling matches ever.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I've talked about that before in New York State and some of the Northeast states. It was a commission requirement that these referees were 100 years old. We had I think it was a midnight rock and roll match, but it was a midnight match with somebody at one of those New York, upstate New York, help me, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, someplace like that.
Troy.
Not Troy, thank God. But the referee was 100 years old, but there was Tommy Young sitting at ringside helping the ring announcer play the music because they wanted to use, and I'm like, motherfucker. I said, I was yelling. I said, this guy's ready to have a fucking stroke, and the best referee in the business is carrying a boombox. Anyway, and Wahoo in 86, you are correct, sir. The Philadelphia Stadium Bash, they came in after Wahoo's match, said, everybody, no more juice, no more juice, no color tonight. No. Because that J.J. Benz, who was in the Rocky movie and had the fucking weird zombie-like hairdo and the whole 9 yards, he was a gimmick. He got mad because Wahoo got juice and the tip of the blade broke off at his forehead. And he came back in the fucking locker room and he was bleeding, and the commissioner followed him and saw him squeezing it in the mirror, and the blade popped out and hit the fucking mirror, and commissioner got pissed off. Nevertheless, back to this. But also the Oregon Wrestling Commission rules. There were rules about the length of a wrestler's trunks, the amount of tape he could use, no face paint would be allowed, et cetera, et cetera. It was like just gibberish, right? So that was in 1988, and that led to the big companies not going. And remember what Sandy Barr, the father of Art Barr and Jesse Barr, one of Don Owens's old referees, was running like a flea market show, and he'd let them in free but charge them to park, trying to get around the commission, because if you let people in free, they couldn't blah, 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 whatever. They're trying to do these loopholes, right? This was for years and years, all the wrestling that people had in Oregon. And as a matter of fact, Billy Jack Haynes, remember when he was trying to run opposition?
OWF.
And it didn't last. At the same time, he was doing all these screwy things that the commissioner was having a heart attack about. So anyway, that was 1988 and for years afterwards. But for Frank's firsthand testimony, fast forward to 2002, and I take the job of business manager for the local WB32 affiliate. The building had previously been owned by a Christian broadcasting group. The building included a television studio, dressing rooms, and of course, the requisite hot tub and sauna, because you can't expect to talk about God without a hot tub and sauna. The studio was not being used by the station, and I was looking for ways to increase the revenue. So I wrote a business plan to produce Portland wrestling in the studio. The station manager, Steve Dant, knew nothing of Portland's wrestling history, but had worked in Kansas City and Atlanta, so he knew wrestling could sell commercial time, especially with the demographics the station was targeting. He gave it the green light, but we had to get the okay from the corporate offices in Los Angeles. And the corporation was also the group that owned KTLA in Los Angeles. Well, guess what the corporation's either name or acronym was, Brian?
I don't know.
Acme. ACME. That was so they went to LA and got show approved. So he says, now was a time for a trip to the Oregon Boxing and Wrestling Commission meeting in Salem, Oregon. Attending the meeting were Moondog Ed Moretti. You remember Moondog Moretti was a Portland wrestling fan who was a fan of Moondog Maines, later on got into business, wrestled for years.
Ed Moretti.
He was a former commission member. Mike Rogers, John Clark, the head of promotions at the station, and myself. And Frank says, I asked the question of the commission, if we were a television show only with no ticket sales, just a studio audience, would we need to have a promoter's license? James Cassidy, the executive director of the commission, stated that we would not, as we were not putting on shows and charging admission. We knew we were a go, or so we thought. In 2003, we taped a few episodes. Piper, the grappler, and Moretti helped book the show and work through the matches with the boys. None of the wrestlers had ever worked television, so these guys put a lot of work in to get things going. Then came the first letter attached, and he has attached these letters to document or commemorate what he's saying. The first letter stating we were in violation for not holding a promoter's license, with copies to the Gaming Commission and Assistant Attorney General.
Jesus.
Then the second letter from the State Assistant Attorney General. This was a complete contradiction as to what was discussed at the commission meeting. Fortunately, those meetings are tape recorded. Back in those days, a tape recorder was a tiny device put in the middle of the table to pick everything up, and we knew the tape would vindicate us, or so we thought. I called up Jim Cassidy and stated our position and asked him to review the tape. He did and sent us a copy of the tape. Nowhere on the tape was the conversation that had taken place at the commission meeting. Now, Cassidy did tell me that if we got a license, he would look the other way, quote unquote, on the other rules. His exact words. I wrote them down as he said them. Of course, he then told the Portland Mercury newspaper that I didn't say I'd look the other way on enforcing the rules. I don't turn away from the rules. They misinterpreted what I said. I told them they have to have a promoter's license. The wrestlers have to be licensed through us, and they have to have an annual physical and show negative results of hepatitis B, surface antigens, and HIV. The promoter's license at that time was very in-depth and required a lot of financial disclosures of everyone involved. Requirements Acme was not going to provide for a wrestling show in Portland, Oregon. And I don't blame them being a company named Acme, but financial disclosures, I've gotten or been involved in the paperwork for getting a promoter's license in the state of Kentucky when there was a strict commission. And if you could prove with references that you were a legitimate member of the wrestling community, that you had some experience in that you had an insurance bond of such and such level and placed a bond with the state, then it wasn't like you needed to send them your tax returns. So this is crazy. But point being, so Acme didn't want to have a promoter's license, and Steve Dant, the station guy, didn't want to go to jail. Fortunately, Portland Wrestling had a fan that worked in the office of Oregon House Majority Leader Tootie Smith. I'm not making that up, but Tootie, House Majority Leader Tootie Smith. Hey, did you ever vote for Tootie?
Is Tootie a man or a woman?
Well, it might be open to interpretation. Oh, next sentence. Working with this gentleman. Oh. See, he anticipated that we'd think Tootie Smith was being played by, like fucking Tallulah Bankhead or something. But nevertheless, Tootie, working with this gentleman, we crafted House Bill 3581 in March of 2003. It was introduced, which would abolish the Oregon Boxing and Wrestling Commission. The bill came with the support of Tootie Smith, as well as the House Minority and Speaker of the House, Tits McGee. No, I made that name up. He didn't give the name of that fellow. It was a great day to be at that presentation to give it my support. There was a publicity barrage that came from many media outlets, and the commission talked about how they probably shouldn't govern, quote unquote, entertainment wrestling. Several reasons point to this outcome. The state's dismal budget situation made it very hard to justify an entity that regulated 11 matches during the previous 2 years and a small handful of boxing matches. So the commission made it to where in 2 years there were 11 pro wrestling events of any description in the state of Oregon in 24 months. That's like once every 2 months someplace. The WB situation and consequent publicity shed a lot of light on the absurd side of the commission with the overzealous rules. And from the state's point of view, this made the commission very hard to defend. So at the point of deregulation, the commission had 3 requests. Promotions be licensed, post a bond to cover unpaid expenses. Duh. And the commission still gets its 6% of the gate. Also, a promoter must declare to the commission that their participants are free from bloodborne pathogens. No actual testing.
A declaration?
Just take the promoter's word. I assume it's the pinky swear method crossed with the Indian blood brothers ceremony. But anyway, but that's the thing. They're paying some level of taxpayer money to have a commission to regulate 11 small-time wrestling shows over a 2-year period. What? So anyway.
I also don't understand why they want to shut down wrestling. You would think they would want the 6%, even if it's small, but if there was quantity, maybe it would build up.
You know what? I forget the guy's name. It was Bruce something, wasn't it? The first commissioner that started all this back in the late 80s when as Frank just said, when they started it in 88, I'm thinking he didn't like wrestling to begin with. He thought it was just, oh my God, this is horrible shit. He may very well have been a boxing guy, and he just didn't get it. And
do you think the 4 ropes thing is because they want to use boxing rings, or is it because they wanted to keep wrestlers in the ring?
Well, that was part of it. There's 4 ropes. The boxers don't fall out of the ring. Yeah, so try getting thrown out. But also just to standardize everything that they considered, well, these are similar sports in the same field of play or whatever the fuck. And also the guy was just a fucking demented prick. But yeah, there were fights for the first several years with Billy Jack, and because that was right as Don Owens was about to fold up, or just had, but it certainly hastened his demise. Sandy Barr couldn't fucking get anything started. Billy Jack was crazy anyway. And, the big companies didn't need to go to fucking Oregon. But then they started doing business. Well, I was about to say, if Frank closes, and Mike signed this also, he had been in touch with the WWF legal department, as had Tootie Smith. And the WWF didn't make a public statement, but they promised to return and run a pay-per-view at the Rose Garden. See, they never promised us a Rose Garden, but they promised us a show at the Rose Garden if the bill passed. So the last attachment was a picture of Frank and Mike with Triple H and Flair on the return to Portland when they did the pay-per-view because they got the bill passed. But that's, again, that's what, if you go so far as these fucking hardcore goofs do to piss off state regulatory boards on purpose to be, oh, look at me, I'm hardcore. Or sometimes you just run across in a place that has been fined for wrestling for years and years. You would run across, a guy that got in and like, well, I'm going to fix this shit. And it might kill your business. And there are still, as you know, places where the state does have regulatory capacity over wrestling. So it's not like this is something that can never take place again from the old days.
Yeah, they may still stick their finger up your ass in New York. I don't know.
I had to walk into the fucking Pineville Police Department in Pineville, North Carolina, and ask to be fingerprinted so we could go to New York. Because the wrestling, this was what, 87 was the first, somehow we didn't have to do it in 85 when Crockett ran spot shows in New York. But when we ran the Nassau Coliseum, we had to get New York licenses where you had to have the picture and the physical and you also had to be fingerprinted. You had to have your fingerprints on the application to be a wrestler. So that was from back in the old days. They did that in the 30s. And if I'd have just been some fucking random dipshit, I think they'd have locked me up for being crazy, but they knew I was on Crockett TV. They said, Jim Cornette wants to be fingerprinted. I said, I don't know anybody that knows how to do fingerprints here. But this is before I had undergone that process but a time or two. But yeah, so the commission, speaking of commissions and physicals, just before we close this goddamn subject up, did I tell you about our Louisiana wrestling commission licenses when we went to work for Watts in Mid-South? How that they actually came about?
I don't know if you have.
Me and Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton have not exactly been, making a goddamn fortune in Tennessee. And we go down to Mid-South and we start making money and we've got the daggum, bookings out and we're just working every day. But the first night or two in, they handed us, though, you got to get here, fill this out. Grizzly Smith, he's the one that took care of this shit. Fill this form out. We got to get you a license for Louisiana. Okay, well, it not only we have to fill the form out, but also it says, here, fill this medical form out and go to the doctor and get a fucking physical. Well, A, we didn't feel like paying for a goddamn doctor. That B, we didn't have because we've just never been in Louisiana in our fucking life. To C, give to the goddamn commission over a fake business when everybody that all three of us are already doing what we're doing every night healthy in every other fucking state, right? So I called up my cousin Larry's wife, Terry, who is a nurse. And I asked her the questions that it was on there, like, what should my fucking blood pressure be? Whatever the questions were on his medical form for a normal goddamn human being, even just a regular amateur athlete, nothing outstanding, don't need to go to the Olympics. What should I write down, right? And she told me, and I kind of made it squiggly handwriting like a doctor. And then to make it believable, I didn't just make up like, Dr. Proctor, the Red Rectum Rocker, and sign it. I said, I'm going to be a sneaky motherfucker and smart, a forger. I'm going to go to the phone book here in Alexandria, Louisiana, and I'm going to pick out the doctor's name and I'm going to sign his name to it.
Oh, man.
Because they ain't going to fucking check. It's a goddamn athletic commission. They want your goddamn money for your fucking license and the money for the tax on the shows, right? So I picked the doctor's name out and I sign it, sent it in. We got our licenses, obviously. We wrestled for a year in the state of Louisiana and nobody ever questioned the goddamn thing. And the only one thing is about 3 or 4 weeks after I'd turned that in, I was driving into Alexandria from somewhere, one of the highways, and I saw a billboard for re-elect Dr. whatever the fuck his name was. Do you know who he was?
No.
The county coroner. Or the parish coroner, I guess I should say down there. But the fucking coroner signed our physicals. All right. That should be a wrestling gimmick, the coroner. We've had the Undertaker, but what about before the Undertaker gets him? The coroner could figure out all the different ways that he could kill his opponent and then All right. Speaking of killing things, Brian, let's go to the business world. We got business news to report. This is CNBC. Apparently, this is second only in the radio world to the Howard Stern type news. The WWE is now taking over Sirius Radio's wrestling channel. Is this a true statement that I'm hearing that people are saying on the fucking interwebs?
This is a true statement. This is put out in a press release. Obviously, Sirius has had wrestling shows. About a year ago, give or take, they launched their wrestling channel, and to the surprise of no one paying attention, it has not gotten the numbers they expected. And now they'll go right to WWE, and it'll just be a WWE Universe channel.
Well, that's what they're calling it, fucking Radio WWE, right? Or WWE Radio. I forget, which one was the old one? The old days.
Radio WWF.
That Radio WWF. I did that a time or two. I was telling you earlier, but this is then going to be WWE Radio. But that sort of, does that make them the Fox News of the wrestling radio space, where they have to toe the line for dear leader, the corporation, and cannot have any honesty on their airwaves? Boy, howdy, I'm glad I didn't answer old Jose Greco's phone call when he was trying to get me to be involved in that thing. I'm not trying to knock. I've never listened to a goddamn second of Busted Open or any other radio or any other podcast. And as you know, I've seldom, if ever, listened back to our own, because I was there when we did it, and I don't have time. So I'm not knocking or praising anybody's program.
No, you should knock it. It's a horrible show.
Oh, well, you can, if you've heard it, feel free to give your thoughts.
It's terrible. It's professional wrestling audio poison. Just not good.
Is it strychnine or ptomaine or cyclosporiasis?
And now, of course, they're going to do nothing but kiss WWE ass. They used to, I guess, randomly kiss other ass, but it's going to be just WWE. It's state-sponsored radio, and it's not going to be good, and I don't think that's going to do anything to help numbers, just because all of a sudden you're going to have WWE podcasts on here. No one's tuning in to hear the Bellas talk. You know what I mean? No disrespect to them, but stars aren't always audio stars. And
well, when we talk about AEW's television program, I'm going to make a point, so I won't, but I'll make a point on what you just said and agree with it later on.
But they've tried multiple times, just to follow up on you. Multiple times, multiple different people in different departments have hit up either you or me. And my attitude, I'll just speak for myself, has always been, why would I ever want any association with any of that shit over there? Not even to do with Sirius, but, the idea...
We're over here.
The idea of being a part of a roster of shit does not appeal to me.
Well, but for once, I'm going to put something softer than you do, but it kind of means the same thing. We do have a fairly large audience of people who like or dislike to listen to us, but they still do, because we're not bullshitting, because we don't care, because we're not affiliated or associated with anybody. That's the idea. We don't have to, remember the Terramana fucking tequila. We got to, we plug our own sponsors, but we don't have any goddamn incestuous relationships.
And they're getting sued, by the way. The Rocks Tequila Company is getting sued, apparently. It's
all right,
tequila.
Down boy. One fucking tirade at a time. But the point is, all goodwill to all of the people who are doing all wrestling programs everywhere around the world, blah, blah, blah. Love is in the air. But that's why we just do our own thing, because we don't want to be, we're over here now. And I don't listen to anybody else. Therefore, I'm not influenced by anybody else. And as people can tell that listen on a regular basis, many times, at least speaking for myself, Brian, I know you're a very well-prepared journalist, but I just pull shit out of my ass based on what I'm hearing or seeing. And that seems to work. But that was the point, is I didn't see a clamor from the populace for a 24-hour wrestling radio channel with there ain't that many personalities in the entire wrestling business that can captivate me for that long, and that's
the problem.
And many of them are not available to do something like that.
That's the problem. That's the model everyone goes with, and that's the model that doesn't work. Star-driven shows are not the answer. It's wrestling talk that's the answer.
Well, besides that, it's the same reason that sometimes the best player doesn't translate into being the best coach. It's different skills. If you can be a star at something without just people wanting to hear you talk for an hour and a half or whatever.
I think Sirius is trying to cut their losses because they're never going to be able to build a wrestling audience the way they've done it so far. That really matters. And, you know, they announced that WWE is going to do like they used to do with Radio WWF and like WCW did on the Hotline. They're going to do audio broadcasts of the pay-per-views. And again, I don't mean to put down the guy, but I'm not a fan of Booker T's commentary on NXT. And that's with visuals. I can't imagine.
So you're saying poor Leroy McGurk would be in the dark as to what was going on.
Oh my God. I don't. Not everyone is a radio broadcaster. There are plenty of baseball commentators that are great on TV. It wouldn't translate to radio. It's a different art form. You have to be more descriptive.
Well, and again, I'll just tease that when we talk about AEW, poor Mick Foley. And that therein lies the problem. And I ask you oftentimes, Brian, why the hell do this many people listen to us talk? And there's some appeal there that I don't understand. But apparently we have more appeals to us than some of the other people do. Anyway, so it's going to be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week WWE radio channel with all of the same people there, but they're going to be talking, I'm sure, nicely about the regime. And then we're going to get all the WWE people that talk nicely about the regime.
And you probably aren't going to be able to mention AEW or CMLL or anything else that's outside of the system. You know, WWE, we've been saying it for a while, and there's a lot of things behind the scenes that happen. But WWE wants to own it all. WWE wants to own everything, and it doesn't just mean every wrestling company under their thumb. It means wrestling audio. It means YouTube. It means everything. They want to own it all. And this was set up for them. They don't have to do anything to take over this channel. The channel's a non-existent thing right now. It has no buzz. The only thing that may have buzz is the morning show. And again, it's night and day between that kind of show and what we do and even what others are doing. It's a different kind of no.
All right.
Bad radio. I hate bad radio. I just hate
you're gonna have a stroke over there. I've said it before and I'll say it again. That's why we don't do video, because then it would be just the two of us sitting here staring at our cameras while we talk to each other, and that would be bad television. I've done some before, but it wasn't on purpose, and I had hopes it wouldn't turn out. But I don't intentionally do bad television. I'd rather do good radio. And then the theater of the mind takes over. And you can imagine Brian Last as the muscular Greek Adonis that he is.
800 pounds, long hair, in my basement. I need someone to pay my bills. Help me.
You can imagine me, for example, sitting here in my underwear with puppies frolicking about. See, reality can't live up to the theater of the mind.
Well, the other thing, too, real quick, you know, everyone does, unless they're in the same location, in which case YouTube just becomes like here's my version of The Tonight Show. And I don't know how much of that the public for a long time is going to want to take. Well, right now it's okay. But the idea of, what can we do? We have to put our podcast on YouTube. I know, I'll film my face and I'll film your face. And then when I'm talking, we'll just see you staring ahead blankly. And then you're thinking, man, this guy has no thoughts. He's just staring ahead. He's not writing any notes down. He's not looking to the side. He's just, I will not turn away from the camera And it's bad, and it looks bad, and people do it just because other people do it. So you're supposed to do it. But go the other way.
It looks like a goddamn online courtroom arraignment.
Just
Most people's
bad content.
Shows. Just, yeah. Enjoy the pretty colors on our thumbnails, folks. But speaking of bad radio, let's switch medias and go to bad pay-per-view. SummerSlam is, as we are speaking now, is a week away, the first night of it at least. By the time that this runs through the machine, the flywheel, it'll be a few days closer than that. And we don't know what nights the matches are going to take place on, but we want to go over the matches that we know. If they ain't announced it by goddamn a week out, what the fuck, right? For heaven's sake. But besides that, did you see the report that remember we just talked about these tickets weren't selling and they were like 21,000 some and 22,000 some respectively for the given nights. And then in the last week, they've sold what, 7,000 fucking tickets? Or was that 7,000 for each night? Or was that just 7,000 in total? It may have been 7,000 where they're up to like 29,000. This is why I don't know if you can magically call up the information on this thing, but there's something going on around here. I'm smelling a little rodent running around. It's not my cute little puppies. It's a slimy little fucking paperer.
Well, Jim, I have it here, the latest update from WrestleTix. According to WrestleTix, night 1, Saturday, August 1st, the tickets distributed as of now is 30,205. Night 2, 29,897.
So that's 15,000 tickets individually over the last week. So does he have the update on since last update, or what's causing all this, in the immortal words of Arn Anderson?
This is as of this morning, as we are recording, and the cheapest ticket is $76.10 standard admission right now, not counting any sales or any free tickets. 10 days until the show. Number of seats on the map, 72,287.
Well, but now that they did some type of $25 general admission sale or something, but does that account for that? Has there been an announcement in the last week of out of Jesus's resurrection during intermission? What could have happened there when they were limping along, and all of a sudden, boom! They go from 20,000 to 30,000 both nights.
I mean, unless it's CM Punk and I apologize for noise behind me. And unless it's CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, just the excitement over seeing that match, if there is that much, or Brock and Oba.
But hadn't they announced that before?
Yeah, Nick Aldis? Maybe Nick Aldis moved all those tickets.
I forgot about Nick. And by the way, folks, this is not Brian Last Gardeners. I'll have you know, it's his fucking neighbor's gardeners.
No, they're mine. They're mine. They've come on the wrong day now a couple weeks in a row. We're going to have a talk. But Jim, once again, let's go to SummerSlam. Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yes.
Minnesota is what it's called on the map.
Or as Arn Anderson used to say it to Nikita Koloff, Minnesota.
The U.S. Bank Stadium. While we have buzzing in the background, let's talk about this buzzworthy card here, Jim. For the Women's World Championship.
See, yeah, they wouldn't want us on Sirius Radio anyway, because we're not serious about our radio.
Well, that's the problem. They wanted us on Sirius Radio, but anyway.
They weren't serious about their radio.
The champion, Liv Morgan, versus Io Sky.
You know, I'm torn. I'm conflicted. Because I like Liv Morgan as a personality, and she strikes me as a peppy little thing, and she took that goose egg on her forehead well. She's painfully small, but of course it doesn't It don't matter to me. But then it's Io Sky, and good Lord, she's going to be she's points at her head like she has big fucking knots coming out of them. I may have to flip a coin on that.
All right, I'm pulling for Liv Morgan, who I think is...
Well, no, I want Liv to win. I'm flipping a coin as to whether I watch it.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. I think you should give it a chance. Jim, in a match where the winner gets to keep $100,000 that was previously stolen from Judgment Day, Danhausen versus Dominic Mysterio.
Wait a minute. Honestly, of course, listeners know I don't give a shit what's going on with the Judgment Day these days, but how did they manage to, who stole $100,000 from who?
Danhausen stole $100,000 from Judgment Day, and then they thought they got it back, but they opened the bag and the bills have been replaced with like Danhausen money. So now they're trying to get back their money, and the only way they could do it is to have this match with Dominic Mysterio against Dan. Dominic Mysterio beat John Cena on his retirement tour. Let's see what he can do with Danhausen.
Oh, I don't know, because Danhausen he's younger than Cena. So he's got more gas left in the tank. Holy Christ. And they're testing the theory. This is all I'll say. They're testing the theory here, or the statement that I've made, that Dominic is such a classic chicken shit heel that has the heat that the people like that to have, that you can beat him and it doesn't hurt him like it would a big fucking monster or whatever. But this will be, I'm sure Dominic will win in some fashion after the antics, but still just that he's going to have to probably put in a little bit of time in this. It's going to be comedic.
All right, Jim, well, the laughs continue. We have more card here. For the Intercontinental Championship, the champion Penta versus Chad Gable in his hometown.
I will watch that. Normally, Penta just don't take a lot of his gravy to go all over my plate. But Gable in his hometown, and he's got now experience working in Mexico, so he can even make some of Penta's halfway goofy shit look plausible. I'll watch that. And hopefully Gable will win, because there's a lot more upside there to him in a variety of places than there is to Penta. And old Felix just showed up and got split up because they came in at different times and made a big splash and then sunk to the bottom like a turd in a punch bowl, didn't they?
Well, he's the Intercontinental Champion here.
Well, but I mean, everybody was acting like, oh no, these guys are going to be the rulers of the world. That's Obafemi. We all know that.
Penta's been there a while. He sells a lot of merch and he's popular. Phoenix.
Where'd Felix go?
I'm not sure what he's doing exactly, but of course they have AAA, so there's lots of options.
Well, there you go.
So we'll see what happens there with that match. But Jim,
Gable, he's our man. If he can't do it, well, just fuck it. We'll all go home.
Oh, he has to do it. I mean, after everything that the character has gone through, this is the redemption right here. Jim, another match in a 5-way ladder match for the interim WWE Women's Championship. Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill versus Charlotte Flair versus Nia Jax.
Ooh.
Versus To Be Determined.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, well, now I understand that the refrigerator has lost a bunch of weight. I just saw a report that she's lost somewhere nearly 100 pounds from whatever her peak inflation was. And so that may slow her up, but she's noted for landing on people or throwing a few potatoes every once in a while. Then you've got Tiffany, who's greener than a pepper tree, greener than chlorophyll, as Frank Spaceman Hickey would say. You've got Jade, who, I mean, I don't know how many ladder matches she's had. She's good on the ground when they can choreograph it like an aggressive dance routine. Poor Charlotte. Jesus Christ. but she's got a bad knee. And I don't know what the fucking health state of to be determined is, but their big money female ball player, Rhea Ripley, gets injured. A knee injury. Imagine that. So they decide to put 5 more of the fucking girls, many of whom are very inexperienced in this particular line of combat, climbing ladders, taking bumps off of them, and or inexperienced in everything, and some of whom have bad knees or history of potentially landing on people. Let's put them in a fucking 5-way ladder match and see how many other ones we can fucking mow down all at the same time.
They found a way to get me to watch. I want to see if Nia can climb that ladder. But we'll see what happens. Can't ask you for a prediction. We have a to be determined.
Yeah, that could wild card, bitches. That could throw the whole thing off. This could be like also, they actually booked a ladder match between Tojo Yamamoto and Dutch Mantel in 1982 in Memphis. And poor Tojo, his legs weren't 2.5 feet long. And it was just comical seeing him trying to climb the ladder. And that was before that the ladder match was a thing, because who was it? It might have been Danny Davis and Ken Wade. Out of somebody brought it down from Calgary, brought the idea down. So we had ladder matches before they were cool. But Tojo never got to the top of it.
Well, Jim, let's see who gets at the top of the ladder in the next match. 6-man tag team action. The Bloodline of Jacob Fatu, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso versus L.A. Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys.
Boy, howdy. It didn't last long for Obafemi. Just took all of fucking old Royce Keys' goddamn aura away, didn't he? They show up at about the same time, but one is bigger and talks better and younger and more popular. Do you like the idea of this, again, this whole thing with who are the baby faces and who are the heels? They love LA Knight. Poor Royce hadn't really got a chance, but Solo. And I know, and I haven't again even given a shit about the build for this, because I don't want to see all these people fighting each other. Do you?
No, I hate this secondary bloodline shit. If Roman's not involved, it takes it down a notch. And, you know, the idea of Fatu and the Usos against kind of this makeshift team where, again, is Solo a babyface or a heel? I'm not exactly sure. LA Knight is just stuck where he always is. And Royce Keys, I don't care. They did all that work. They claim they did all that work to show his personal life. And he was on Stephanie's podcast. It is not translated. They've just dropped the ball completely. It's not about other guys that were brought up or anything at the same time. They just haven't made him interesting, I don't think.
Well, that's true. They haven't made him that visible, to be honest.
I mean, Trick Williams just came up. Javon Evans just came up. Ethan Page just came up. A lot of other guys who are in the mix. Royce Keys is in the mix here with the Bloodline stuff, and we'll see if maybe this will change it, but it hasn't felt like they've done it right yet.
It was that Jacob Fatu was a legitimate, I could have been a contender. Stella! People legitimately thought at one point here about 3 or 4 months ago, Jacob Fatu could be the world heavyweight champion, or one of them. And now he's in a 6-man tag just because of his brothers and the other fucking guy, Jacob Light. All right, continuing on.
Jacob Fatu is smaller than he was, and that's not the worst thing if it improved his health, but he also now just talks slowly and clearly, and it's just they lost all the energy.
And remember when we said that, and it looked like for 2 weeks like they brought the werewolf back. Then they domesticated him and taught him how to pee on his pad and put him in the fucking, and I love you, Roman. What the fuck?
Well, Jim, this next match, one I'm looking forward to. Gunther versus Nick Aldis.
I bet you that they will have the best wrestling match of the weekend. If you're looking for actual professional wrestling where I don't think there's going to be, hopefully not, a ton of furniture involved. I don't think there's going to be a bloodbath. Hopefully don't think that they'll even have to bury the referee. But I think just for work, whatever they do, however they decide to approach the match, I bet for actual execution of work, that'll be start to finish the best match of the fucking weekend. And I think I think people are going to go crazy over the fucking thing when they see it unfold in front of them. And Gunther has to win, but it remains to be seen whether they're going to involve Gunther's next, dance partner, as they say, with in the finish, if he just beats him or if he's trying to inflict too much punishment. Here comes Zabada. I hope they wouldn't go with here comes Zabada and he causes Aldis to beat Gunther unless they're going to bring it back. I don't see him bringing it back because the law of diminishing returns don't, unretire too often. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, me too, but my only question is, and I want it to be a really good match, but should it be? I mean, he's not a celebrity and he's not a civilian. He's a former wrestler, although never there, Nick Aldis, but he's been a GM for a while. He's been out of active competition. Should he have a long match with Gunther? Should it be competitive? Or
you don't pay attention to what I say, do you? Because I said this the other dadgum day. You were probably busy counting the ratings. But no, it doesn't need to be one of these AEW nail biters for 20 minutes. My God, he kicks the shit out of Gunther and Gunther wins by the skin of his teeth. But at the same time, it's not like if Nick Aldis had been a pro wrestler many years ago, but now he's fucking 50 something years old and he's fat or he's gray or whatever. Look at him in a fucking suit. He looks better than half the roster and he can work. And I think if they do, that's why I said the other day, they ought to make some kind of deal with Billy Corgan for footage or something to where they do a 2 or 3 minute package before
TNA.
The match.
He was in TNA, wasn't he?
TNA.
Yeah.
Well, but that was long ago and oh so far away when I fell in love with him before the second show. But it's something to show him in a positive light. He was a former NWA champion. He's been in the ring. He's had matches with Cody. He's been at whatever the case. Do that package and have him say, I've been retired as an in-ring competitor for the past X years. What is it? 3 years, 4 years, whatever. But I'm 39 years old and I'm a man and I try to stay in good shape. And I'm not, the old Bill Watts, I'm not ready for a long campaign. I'm not coming out of retirement. I just want to get even with this fucking guy. And they can do some shit early, but eventually I think Gunther has to wear him out and fucking beat him, but it's not like you're talking a goddamn civilian or a referee or somebody that it would be ridiculous if they had any offense or Marco Stunt or whatever. So and plus it's a personal issue. Personal issues draw money.
All right. Well, let's see what other money drawing matches were potentially on this show or are on the show. Jim Hell in a Cell, Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar.
And Obafemi's got to win this or just the whole world is gone insane. And that's what they were doing, I guess. 2 out of 3 when they did but it's just, this has been so odd. But the build to a couple of these main events, this, the first one we'll talk about, has been odd to me. If the whole retirement thing tease, just the action of Brock being emotional when he never is, and leaving his shoes and the whole 9 yards, if that wasn't a spontaneous moment and was all part of the plan, Smithers, then it really was a shitty plan. And I don't know that for Brock to be at SummerSlam in Minneapolis against Obafemi for the third and final confrontation, I would have preferred that Oba just beat Brock and leave it there and let Brock do some angle with somebody where he could be, and I've mentioned it before, with Heyman, might have been the great thing. You're forcing him back in the ring contractually, you evil business, fucking manager, whatever, and let Brock be in a kind of a more babyface position. Have the same match, do the same thing, that he always does, but the people would cheer for him. But Obafemi better goddamn win this fucking match. One would think, unless. But then I'm confused. If we thought Oba winning the King of the Ring would lead to him challenging Roman for the title at SummerSlam. If Roman came out and fucked him during the goddamn Hell in a Cell, but Roman's allegedly some kind of baby face, at least in the Pacific Islands and certain atolls off the fucking coast. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, Jim, 2 more matches here. For the World Heavyweight Championship, the champion Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins.
I can't see, since they seem to be so enamored of Roman, I can't see them taking the thing off of him at this point. Can you?
No, but I mean, they could. Man, I hate to say it, I just don't care. It's a Roman Reigns match, and they haven't really made me care about whether or not he's the champion or not.
There's going to be a lot of walking around.
A lot of talking. A lot of mid-match speeches.
Speechifying.
That the crowd will be quiet for, but the cameras will pick it up, don't worry. Do you have a prediction, Roman?
They're Roman. Roman will reign.
All right, Jim, finally, for the WWE Championship, undisputed championship, that is, the champion CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes.
I believe, for every drop of rain that falls, I believe that CM Punk will retain the championship that he just won, but that something will happen involving either Gunther or potentially Sammy or potentially both that will render Cody down and subject to being beaten, but not something that Punk actually was the eyewitness to and could then be accused of capitalizing on. How about them apples?
Minnesota apples, I guess we can say.
That's right. Goes along with the Wisconsin cheese.
Well, there it is. That's SummerSlam. 2 nights. We'll see how they... This would have been a really good one-night card. 9 matches.
They've got enough for one, don't they?
Yeah. 9 matches. It could have gone 4 hours, because of 9 matches, but still. They're going to divide this up. Maybe they'll add another match so it's not just 4 matches and 5 matches, but not a lot here for 2 nights. Nothing to get excited about traveling for, I don't think.
Well, there's going to be some other things that get announced days
commercials.
Out.
Extra commercials. Brand new commercials. Well, speaking of a thing like commercials, everybody has them, Brian. It's not that they're inherently bad. It's just sometimes people make them boring and sometimes people make them exciting. Like we do here. Many people say, boy, I love to buy the products and services that Jim Cornette and the great Brain Last advertise because, well, they either make me feel better or eat better or look better or just they tickle my taint in some kind of way. And that's why we are proud
to tell you that now, folks, we can increase your concentration. We can make sure that you are focused in on what's going on. You've got focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. We're going to help you concentrate on things and wish your way to success. And at the same time, we're going to keep you away from these nasty, nasty habits. Now, Brian, you know these kind of people. They get up in the morning, the first thing they want to do is guzzle a gallon of coffee. They might even go so far as to order it from some overpriced outlet that sells coffee and coffee ancillary products. Those kind of really fucked up people that are just addicted to the caffeine. Do you know anybody like that?
I think we should move along instead of labeling people or anyone specific. I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at, but we're talking about a fine product that isn't about insulting our friends.
Yeah, well, see, they got the caffeine monkey on their back. They call it the kunky. And they can't do without the caffeine. You know, caffeine hospitalized me, and I've never forgiven him or his entire family for it. Well, it's all about bad habits versus good habits, Brian. And that's why that our friends at Ultra make the Ultra pouches that are a game changer for focus and energy, that have no nicotine and no caffeine. They don't have things and such like that you'll have to crave and be bad for you and ruin your health. Instead, they've got clinically proven nootropics and adaptogens or adaptogens. Adaptogens. It delivers immediate focus and smooth energy that lasts 1 to 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, they've got the Infinity PX. It's a cleaner, smoother energy boost than caffeine. The L-theanine amino acid for calm energy and attentiveness. The Alpha GPC for enhanced mental processing, and the vitamins for balanced energy and mood. 1 or 2 of these, you'll focus right in. 3 of them, and you will be able to recite and remember all the lyrics to the long version of American Pie after just one listen.
That's not how it works. And again, maybe
it was in the survey.
Unless you are someone used to this, maybe stick with 1 or 2. I will say I use 2 and I edit and I love it. The watermelon tastes delicious, but these are great. My recommendation is for anyone editing audio, Ultra Pouch.
Yes. Or video. That could be like the same kind of thing. You still need to focus.
But I'm not giving that endorsement today. I'm only giving anyone who has to edit audio endorsement.
Well, yes. And anyone on a day with a fucking Z in it. But folks, again, you're going to feel less on edge or anxious. You're not going to deal with the crashes you get. You're still going to get the pouch experience that you actually like, in Ultra, huge in the kangaroo population. And you might get better sleep because the nicotine and the caffeine spike your resting heart rate, kills your body's and brain's ability to recover from things. You may have been hit by a car recently. Well, you're fucked. But the Ultra pouches will not disrupt your sleep. And again, folks, the insanely good flavors: cool mint, wintergreen, tropical, watermelon, and blue raz. It's fruity too here. You can also, if you're trapped on a deserted island and you have no vitamin C, you won't get scurvy as long as you've packed, much like Thurston Howell III, a trunk full of your Ultra pouches. It's the ultimate guilt-free pouch, folks, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. And new customers can use the promo code JCE to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That is takeultra.com. 15% off with the promo code JCE, so you can try a variety of these fruity flavors for enhanced memory, smooth energy, mood balance, calm, steady flow state focus. Goose Fraba.
Once again, Jim, Ultra pouches, Goose Fraba, whatever whatever's happening right now. Ultra Pouches, I like them, and we think the listeners will too. A great deal for them, in store for them. What's that promo code? Oh my God. All right,
Papa, Mau, yeah. See, I'm focusing.
Right. If we can get away from the surfing bird and get back to the Ultra Pouches, that would really be appreciated.
Take Ultra. The Oak Ridge boys hate you. Take Ultra.com. 15% off with the promo code JCE.
Ultra Pouches.
Well, Brian, I'll tell you, it didn't take a lot of focus or concentration this week for Dark Side of the Ring. And I have a soft spot for the program that I'm on quite often. But in this case, you'd have to have a soft spot in the head. Because it was... I will preface this by saying it made everyone and everything involved in the show, except for one person, look horrible. And then I will give my reasoning for same now that I've made that blanket statement. The match. The show was on the match between Samoa Joe and Necro Butcher. And I know we've had Evan Husty on talking about this, and if you heard that, but a lot of people are still probably saying the what from who, where? Because when I first heard from the Dark Side crew that, well, one of the episodes is going to be on the famous match between Samoa Joe and Necro Butcher, I'm like, what match? What famous match? It may be famous on message boards of really hardcore indie marks, and I use that term in the exact manner in which it was always intended, from 20 fucking years ago. But except for the fact that Samoa Joe has gone on to be a legitimate mainstream major company talent since then, there was nobody else to talk about this or to present except nobodies. And the match, it's just... First, it made Dark Side of the Ring look bad because they're narrow casting. I think it was an episode wasted on the smallest possible audience because literally almost nobody knew this match took place until they decided to make an episode about it. Were you aware that this famous match took place and it was right up your neck of the woods? Did you know about it at all?
I had heard about it. It did not have a legendary status amongst myself or the people I spoke with. It wasn't something I sought out at its time. I saw a lot of the CZW Ring of Honor stuff, but that, even though these two guys are a part of that, that's a little bit after this.
That was a few years after this. But point is, narrowcasting the program because the smallest audience would know. And hey, that worked at one point with Chris Cole a season or two ago. A lot of people hadn't heard about him, but it was one of the higher rated episodes, possibly because we'd talked so much about Chris Cole, but also because at least it was a fascinating story about a guy who was legitimately at one time in mainstream professional wrestling. This made the wrestling business in general look bad to a Vice TV audience who may be seeing this at one of the endless repeats. It's Dark Side is half of their schedule. Think this is what they call professional wrestling these days because it was a garbage indie match in Ian Rotten, the trashiest wrestling promoter ever. And imagine how much territory that takes in. He was the guy putting the show on. So it made not wrestling in general and promoters look bad. They do this? What the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, you see, that's another thing. I paid attention to Ring of Honor. I kind of knew after a certain point what was happening in CZW. I never watched it. But beyond the Dennis Carluzzo stuff when it first started up, I never kept up with IWA Mid-South, and I know now because guys like CM Punk started there. people look at it as, kind of being this, whatever, the stomping ground to get people ready. I didn't
get them ready for the fucking morgue. They've had to airlift more than one.
The deathmatch scene and deathmatch companies and companies that had death matches were typically not my scene.
See, make no mistake. Yes, Ian Rotten booked CM Punk because he was running Indiana and Punk lived in Chicago, Illinois, and he would pay him and he could drive. But it wasn't like that the cards were filled with punks up and down the roster. It was actually literally filled with punks up and down the roster. Fat, bald, tattooed guys, garbage matches, death matches, obnoxious women's hardcore matches, and general bullshit that, as we've mentioned, led to one of the stricter athletic commissions in the country. But point is, business looked bad, promoter looked bad, the show looks bad. Why are you covering these fucking weirdos? The wrestlers, except for, I'll get to it in a minute, who look like idiots when you see the highlights of the people talking about it. The fans were talking heads and came off like goofy hardcore marks. Oh, yeah, this was so great. Oh, my God. You wouldn't believe it. Oh, my God. Necro Butcher, I met him and worked with him a short time in Ring of Honor in like 2009. He's a nice guy. And believe it or not, and that's the rib, he has a genius level IQ. But this shows you the difference between people having a genius level IQ and common sense. And he's had a troubled life and has recently survived cancer. I'm not wishing ill on him, but I'm just stating the fucking fact that you would take away from this sitting there. This guy has issues that need to be addressed. And secondly, from a person inside the wrestling business, you would know that he does not now, after all this time, and never has understood the business because he got started in these death match fucking situations where it even, that was his reasoning. They just looked down on me like I'm just a deathmatch wrestler, but I wanted to prove that I could take anything that the real wrestler Samoa Joe could dish out. That doesn't have anything to do with the wrestling business. You're not supposed to go in there and take everything he has to dish out. What the fuck is going on here with these people? And so, I mean, can you deny that from listening to him, Butcher's a very nice guy that's had a hard life and has issues and doesn't understand what fucking actual professional wrestling business is kind of about?
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I don't really think he's a wrestler, but being a wrestler and being in the wrestling business, not that he's not, but you know what I mean? Like he clearly never had aspirations to be on national TV with a national company, or he would have done things differently. So
and that's where the issues that I talk about come into play. What is he proving and to who by doing the things that he has done? And he obviously, from the way he was talking, he was trying to prove things to somebody. But anyway, the point is, Samoa Joe, the only guy that came off normal because he was treating it as a joke with a twinkle in his eye and kind of a snicker. And he even said, hey, I took the booking because my girlfriend at the time lived there. I wanted to get some ass. And this guy wants me to do all this shit too. Okay. And here we go. But he's been a star. He's been a legitimate talent in mainstream promotions. So he probably said, okay, I'll sit there and talk about this goofy match I had in front of nobody 20 years ago with this guy that wanted me to just beat the fuck out of him. But I can't make anything serious out of it because to him, it's a fucking footnote. But everybody just came off looking like the people that like that garbage death match bullshit look. like lower forms of humanity that people would roll their eyes at in a fucking public setting. And it doesn't do the wrestling business or anything else any good. Have these Ian Rotten, this sleazy, fat trash bag promoter, and this poor guy that's had all these challenges in his life to go out there and wrap himself up in barbed wire and stick broken glass in his fucking arms and have his head gashed open and all this shit. And the people that are, including Dave Prazak, who now has gray hair. My God, I thought he was eternally 12. But they're, oh, this was so great. Like they're ever going to get laid again.
Oh,
it just
on.
made everybody look like fucking idiots.
I have a soft spot for Prazak. He's a good guy.
Well, but still, I mean, just be out there saying that, like, wow, this is so wow.
Prazak and I both debuted as commentators for the first time on the same night. So we both started the same day.
I remember I was there. But thank you for helping get me over that night. I appreciate it. But the point is, everybody in this, including the business, just Bryce Remsburg. Of course, he's refereed a match between the Invisible Man and his invisible opponent. So I liked Bryce before, but fuck him too. He's goddamn phony fucking showbiz bullshit. But it's just it does no good for the overall perception of professional wrestling among the mainstream population to have this goddamn indie niche garbage hardcore bullshit glorified and have credibility lent to it by anybody that's actively involved in the actual wrestling business. And everybody here looked like they ought to be running the Ferris wheel at the county fair. That was my thought. I'm sorry to have to say that, but what the fuck? And if anybody don't believe me, watch it for yourself and tell me that you would want your daughter to date any of these people, or you'd want to, if you're at a restaurant, if these folks are at the booth next to you, are you going to ask if you can move? What the fuck?
All right.
Well, your closing thoughts, Brian, if any, or did I about cover it?
You know, I'm not a big fan of the show in general. And I think certain things like the reenactments are completely not needed anymore.
I will say when they have the footage of the thing actually happening, you don't need to reenact it.
There's nothing to reenact. I mean, so it stands out in an episode like this. But I almost feel like they need to get away from the word dark side, or just at least keep it in the name, but not make that the focus of the show. Just make it, we're going to tell stories about stuff we like that may not be dark. It may just be everyone lived and moved on and everything is just fine. In a way, I think it could be a cool new format for them. The idea of focusing on an individual match where you could actually get footage of a match and have all the people sit down and talk about it. I think that's...
But hopefully it would be one where people actually ever saw it or heard of it to begin with, and they know both of the participants.
Yeah, but in my world, this was never considered a classic match, and if it's been brought up, it's been brought up almost never over the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever. So they're bringing attention to something that I don't think anyone was aware of.
Yeah, it might have been better to let the sleeping dog take his nap. But next week, they do return to the dark side, because I have to say this, or not next week, but now this week, as we are, by the time you hear this, you just run over and turn your TV on whenever you hear this. But it's an episode on Big Bubba Rogers, the Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor. And obviously that does have kind of a dark ending. So we're back on the dark side, but also I think he's another guy that's gotten shorted on the WWE official documentaries and biographies and bullshit. And he is somebody that a lot of people do know and did see and were fans of and would probably like to know the story of. So hopefully this is just this past week was a momentary pothole, a little bump in the road, Lance. On my way to the championship, as Jerry Lawler once said on Memphis TV, just a little bump in the road is all it is. And we're back to the wrestling business this week.
Big Boss Man or Ray Traylor had two of the coolest entrance musics. That's not how you say that. He had two of the coolest entrances with music that he would come to the ring with. He had Midnight Express when he would come out with you guys, or Chase. And then he had Jive Soul Bro when he would come out with Slick. And then he had Hard Times, and everyone remembers that. But man, Jive
Well, what
Soul
about
Bro,
Peter Gunn? What about Peter Gunn, baby?
Yeah, and that.
I loved that. That was my idea, by the way. I love it, kid. Because when he told Bubba to show up as a bodyguard, just wearing a suit and hat, right? And we added the sunglasses and he grew the beard because he was so young and he was so baby-faced. But I said, if we want to create some fucking menace and he looks kind of like a gangster and boom, 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 boom. And it worked. I loved that. And it wasn't something that people were going to like be able to sing along to, or it wasn't a hit they were going to cheer for anyway, or it was going to be
That's
cool.
true.
It just sounded, it was heelish bullshit. Wah, wah, wah,
You can't do
wah,
anything
wah.
to it. You're right. You can't clap to it. You can't do anything.
Yeah. But it's just like, I expect to see him pull a goddamn machine gun out of his violin case. So anyhow,
I hope they use.
where were we?
I hope Darkseid includes at least one time of you saying, "Big Bubba, no trouble."
They'd have to play the commercial now for people to really get it. That was the biggest bubblegum commercial of all time. Big Bubble, no trouble. Anyhow, speaking of trouble and all the other things we're going to speak about, Brian, I think my overall assessment of WWE Unreal on this particular season is they had two pressing needs. One, they had a contractual commitment to fill up some time. And number two, they had an overwhelming and uncontrollable impulse to huff their own farts. And they put those two things together, and they filled 5 hours up on how brilliant they are to do all this shit that they always meant to do to begin with. And when somebody gets hurt, they'll just change it and do that too. But everybody always ends up hugging each other in the end, because that's what it's all about. Hugging a guy that I hate worse than anything else on television. Do we need to review the 5 hours now, or did I just kind of encapsulate it?
You captured a lot of it. Obviously, that's a very, very, very sour view of it all. Obviously, we get to see wrestlers.
Very sour.
Well, we get to see, it exposes the mystique, I guess you could say, for a lot of wrestlers.
It doesn't just expose it. It just, I expect to see some type of oral sex between these people after they come back from their matches. In the territory days, we didn't fucking hug and kiss and thank you or a handshake if we saw the guy. If the locker rooms weren't separate, now there's an entire, are they staging this for the program? Where there's like an audience waiting to applaud the people as they come back and everybody's hugging, including the two people that just tried to kill each other and talking about how it just came off perfectly exactly as we planned, after they have showed us planning the shit to begin with. Every step, every facial expression, every move. Was that a question? Did I phrase that in the form of a question?
No, you certainly didn't, but I kind of know what wavelength you're on. Yes, that's what WWE Unreal is. I said it to you the other day when we were talking about, I think, Saturday night's main event. If I told you they're booking their promotion for Unreal, it seems a lot more reasonable than they're booking it to sell tickets and pay-per-view events. Because it seems like, you know, again, as all these things are happening, these wrestlers are sitting down and doing interviews with Unreal. Everyone's in a fucking happy relationship. That's amazing. Everyone is just in love with their spouse, and everyone's spouse is on the road with them.
Yes.
Thing.
I guarantee you 40 years ago, there would have been a lot of happiness if the spouses were on the road. But it's also, everybody is happy and they love everyone. And John Cena his personality that he had at one point that got him over with, everybody personally at OVW, and he was just such a fucking personable. He's turned into a monotonic whispering robot wearing Vince McMahon's clothing. Have you noticed this type of behavior with his measured voice, like he's having someone read it into the chip in his brain?
He seems like a genuinely great guy. What he does for children is commendable. As big a star as he is, I can't pretend like I enjoyed his work by and large the last year. It reminded me of a lot of things I didn't like. But the way he talks, everything is a politically correct press statement where he's not going to offend anyone. He's going to tell you something, and if you really stop, you're trying to figure out what the fuck he's saying. He justifies a lot of his own stuff. His reasoning is, again, very interesting. But he's a robot. He speaks like a robot. He behaves like a robot.
He used to be a very jovial, outspoken, happy fellow telling stories and whatever. But we saw him. He said the retirement tour consumed him. So we saw him working with and teaching spots to Logan Paul, showing him the way to lift, etc. I mean, even the somewhat dedicated, knowledgeable fans like ours that are listening now might not necessarily get this inside baseball, but everybody that falls across this is going to think that, my God, not only is it completely choreographed from word go, but that they'll think it was always like this. And it just, to me, it's like wheeling out the box where you're putting the girl to saw her in half and showing the mirror and the play with it. And then Triple H explained, well, we're spending a year to say goodbye to John Cena. I'm like, he just won't leave. But they started back in, early 2025, the Elimination Chamber, where Cena turned heel. And he gave the impression, well, yeah, they just wanted me to turn heel, so I got to come up with a reason why. And it looked like he did. He just came up with a reason why. But that whole, they try to smooth over and sugarcoat some of the shit they did that wasn't that well received, but in highlights, it looks like it worked because they've got the edit on it. But that's what I wrote. Cena's explaining his thought process for being a heel, and it makes sense when he explained it, but they're acting like it worked. And then Triple H said that he told Cena he couldn't be so boring. So then I started having good matches again. I'm like, oh my God. And then they demanded the old Cena back by SummerSlam. But then suddenly we're in the writer's room, and then we were on Braun Breaker's fishing boat. So your thoughts so far, Brian?
Again, the Cena last year, to me, creatively, at least, was a failure. And there were moments that were cool. I like the Dominic match, personally. But they pretended like everything was good. They didn't mention, other than Cena mentioning The Rock and Travis Scott, they didn't mention that kicked the whole thing off and then went away.
Yeah.
And Cena is justifying his reasoning for what he wanted to do. And remember what he wanted to do? He gave a lot of long speeches. They were cool at first because he was heel Cena for the first time. And then it was kind of like, I was fed up with it. And then he turned back babyface for no reason. It was just like, all right, we have a match tomorrow. SummerSlam, it was a year ago. We have a match. I think I'm just going to go back to the old me. And he did. And then he had like a street fight between two babyfaces. But, they couldn't present it that way here. John Cena was the main talking head of this episode 1, I presume we're talking about.
Yes, because we're starting at the beginning. And then, as I mentioned, Braun Breaker in the fishing boat. But here's the thing they could do well. They don't have to show all of the people hugging each other and going over their finish ahead of time and all that shit. And we'll talk about it in a minute. Punk is the one guy that's kind of mastered speaking to normal people and inside fans at the same time. For the people who already know the business is a work, he doesn't say anything to insult their intelligence, but he doesn't say anything to give the normal person any more information than they might already have. He goes right down the middle with it. And with Braun here, they did a package on his high school and college wrestling and football and the NFL camp and his spears and his quickness and his explosiveness. That's great stuff. That's old-time wrestling. Make the guy legitimate. Show what he can really do. They can't dispute that. And the training footage and his father and his uncle. He's a natural. You could do that on this program. It wouldn't have any detrimental effect. But, and you know, even Seth puts Braun over on the program where he soaks up information. And that's a thing that you could tell from the start as soon as we saw him. He's not an indie-minded wrestler wannabe guy. He's with the business already because of his family. He's with it mentally, and he didn't come in, want to do stupid shit and be a mark. He's approaching this like a sport, like he just approached football like a sport and a lucrative sport. So that's why he's going to be on top for a long fucking time. But
what did you think of Triple H's reasoning for him not being Braun Steiner? That he could be so much bigger than them and he could break away from them. Like, you know, second generation wrestlers weren't a thing.
In this case, at first I was like, why the fuck not call him by his real name? Because that helps his, you know, his name recognition and etc. And everybody knows who he is. I think that Triple H there may be some of that really in their reasoning for doing it. Otherwise, they wanted to own the name. But I think now that they're just being open with it rather than hiding it or winking at it, but not being outright able to say it. I don't think it's hurting him because he is doing his own shit now and he's on top. He's not.
I don't think it's hurting him,
you know,
but just the reasoning behind it.
Oh, the reasoning behind it was like I said, I'm sure there was a soupçon of that, but also they wanted to own the fucking name. But they can't say that.
Right.
Yes. So they said the other thing. Because if you can't say this, you can't say that.
He came across in this Braun Breaker so likable. I really found myself rooting for this heel. I really found myself just...
Yeah, well now that may be one of the problems. You know, he's a very nice, likable guy, but, you know, what the fuck? But that's the thing also, as you can tell, he's a smart guy in more ways than one. And then, of course, during this segment, they showed Roman's open-handed punches in slow-mo so we can be even more sure he's not trying to hurt anybody. And then they did a segment on Punk, and they're introducing all these people are going to be following. And he won the title at SummerSlam, but then Seth Rollins cashed in. That's where he said, that rat bastard Seth Rollins. He's not just coming out and, oh, I love working with Seth, and I showed him how to do the crotch-locked leg strangle. He double talks to where it works for both audiences. And
he double talks, but he also lets them film him doing all the same things.
Well, yes. I mean, well, he can't, you know, that's a part of the problem. I don't think anybody's particularly got the option of just calling a halt to it. I'm sure they can go to the bathroom or whatever, but, you know, they've got to be involved if they are so chosen. But he's a tightrope walker. Everybody else just wants to be a fucking movie actor. And then they covered the introduction of the mixed tag deal, which in the story of AJ coming back, which was one of my favorite things because it was actually, again, personal issues and old time wrestling instead of one of 1,800 belts.
Hey, can I say something about that?
Yes, you may.
I didn't really like it. And I haven't been a big fan of AJ's return. Unreal. I found myself liking AJ Lee so much in this. And actually understanding her, getting behind kind of her reason. It was better than the booking in making me care about AJ Lee and wanting to see her wrestle.
Well, and that's what, again, with Punk and AJ, when they were talking about the mixed tag and recounting the events, they kind of did the promo to lead up to it. And also they're tying in the story of Larry, and he's just so sweet. So anybody, and what Punk said at some point in here, I don't know if I wrote it down, but Punk said about Larry, he said, I've found as I've gone on that usually dogs are better than people. I knew there was a reason why I liked him, otherwise than wrestling.
How big a star is CM Punk? He got them the licensed footage of the Wolfman.
Well, but they kind of had to, given it was a tribute to Larry. But anyway, so that segment, okay, like that stuff. Then we get back to Cena and the fucking entrance with the kids. And then he got the shit kicked out of him by Brock. I just noticed in this, I've never noticed before, Brock Lesnar has no calves. Have you ever seen that?
I did not notice that, no.
Below his knees, he looks like a fucking 55-year-old mailman.
I will have to
but
pay attention
the
to
rest
that
of it is so impressive. Yeah, it just hit me there.
Maybe that's why he wears board shorts to hide whatever's going on there. But what do you think of Cena's reasoning? Because we had a lot of questions when it happened. What sense does this make on his retirement, having Brock destroy him, and there is no comeback? That's it. And Cena gave his reasoning here.
Well, it didn't really make a lot of sense. It just he's Brock. He's going to go on. What do I need? There was just nothing. I don't need it. I don't know why they did it. And that's the thing, is that Cena was getting so grandiose and polished and so soft spoken about this, like he's recounting the moment that he discovered the method for brain surgery.
Everyone else was upset, but I had 4 years to ruminate about what this was going to be. And I knew that I had to be special. And I knew what I need. It was nonstop. See, again, it's like one of these guys that smells his own farts and likes it, but he also just seems like a nice guy. Like, you don't really totally mind it because he's kind of weird in the way he talks about all this.
He's not enunciating every word, bro.
But again, the idea that he speaks in like corporate speak and he dresses like Vince McMahon, there's something going on. Has he become a Scientologist? Is he a humanoid? Is he a cyborg? A prototype?
A prototype.
Maybe.
The perfect human. But anyway, they covered his match with AJ Styles. And they talked about how, they memorized the whole match, AJ and he beforehand. And, I think it's a great match. I've got it in my head. I hate that people think it was always like that. And, they did everybody's tribute moves and et cetera. And then they came back and the same thing. They have a match. They come back and they hug and kiss each other. And everybody stands around and hugs them and applauds them. In
the creepiest looking champagne room you've ever seen.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's bottle service at the club. I'm sorry, but in the territory days, even if you were at a big show, in a locker room filled with top stars in the Superdome or whatever, unless a guy came in spurting blood more than a foot away from his fucking head, nobody even looked up. Anyhow, then we got Seth and Cody. and Seth's diving headbutt where they picked up on the microphone on the camera and they amplified the ring noise. My shoulders probably broke. Holy Christ. But he won anyway. And then they checked him out and they told him what it might be. And he asked the camera guy, what month is it? Because he's thinking about WrestleMania. And then they showed a guy, I guess, in the writer's room with an eraser erasing the entire whiteboard because the writers are stumped. Fuck it, we're doing the whole thing over again.
What do you think of the dress code for the writers?
Well, I have never seen so many ties and sweaters. And Vince, I found out the dress code that he had implemented where you had to wear a coat and tie to the office, except on Friday, that was business casual. And I'm like, so one day of the week, we can look different than we do the other. It makes no fucking sense. But if you got one of those fucking fruity looking fucking sweaters that like Bruce used to wear, then you didn't have to wear the suit jacket. You could wear a sweater and a tie was, in Vince's mind, was okay. So I still have like 3 or 4 of those goofy sweaters. The only time I've ever wore a sweater in my whole life that I bought up there so I could get out of wearing a jacket around the fucking office.
Coming to Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com.
Sometime soon. Stay tuned for that. But Brian, on the debut episode of this, your final thoughts of Unreal, and was it just a reason because they were committed to fill time and they get a chance to put themselves over as how hard they work and how smart they are?
Again, I don't think it helps exposing everything like this. As a show, independent of what's real and what's fictional and non-fictional and everything else, it's a good show. It's well done. It exposes a lot of the issues with the creative process. You know, I thought CM Punk came across great. I think CM Punk came across in this series, and we're talking about episode 1, as likable and relatable as he's ever been. I thought everyone did pretty much. Most people.
Every once in a while, they show Bruce.
Bruce, who it looks like nobody wants to talk to. I don't know why Bruce is there. Well, I do know why Bruce is there. Everyone knows why Bruce is there. But it's not like he lends anything. But I think the problem with the whole series, really, is just the period of time we're talking about is a period of time that creatively has been flailing. You know, we talked about it. They're not announcing records anymore for a reason. It's not just because you can't stay hot forever. It's because they lost a lot of the magic hot touch. Now things are just really good, but the creative's a mess. But because this show is based around the creative team and the stars that they use, you don't get that. Everything's just great.
You know, the problem is when these guys get hurt, they run out of ideas, the creative team does. We put all our eggs in that basket. We just don't know what else to do or how else to think. And you know, Brian, that right there, I could tell them all they need to do to float on over to Idea Land and get really creative without the hangover you get from alcohol or the regrets for the bad decisions. They just ought to take a sip or two of Willie's Remedy. Because all I need is a remedy for me, please, and I will be happy to book all these towns. Because you'll be sitting there, folks.
What?
Just give me towns to book, because you'll be sitting there, you'll be sipping on the Willie's Remedy. It comes in 5 milligram and 10 milligram. Now, 5 milligram, you book the spot shows. 10 milligram, you're going to the Philly Civic Center and the goddamn Atlanta Omni, baby. It's low calorie, it's low sugar, there's no alcohol. You get a fast-acting, euphoric, and social buzz without the regrets that come with alcohol. That means if you take a couple of tipples of Willie's, you're going to go out and put your arm around somebody and say, hello, friend. But if you take a tipple of the old demon rum, the alcohol, then you're going to put your arm around somebody's neck and you're going to squeeze their britches full until their eyeballs pop out, and then you're going to jail. That's called regrets over bad decisions. Folks,
and
each
this
bottle
example
of
may not be
Willie's,
fitting for all. Let's just say that.
well, each bottle of Willie's is third-party lab tested for accurate dosage, so you can trust and customize your experience. They've got, I'll tell you, talk about a party. It's not the third one. They've had a bunch of parties because they get that tester down there and they say just take a sip out of each bottle. And by the time he gets about the 10th or 12th bottle, well, he's just fucking gone. He's gassed, Barney.
Well, you're gassed.
But they've got to do this. They've got to do this type of testing to make sure that everything's okay.
First of all, we don't know anything about their testing. Second of all, they do testing.
Well, it's
worry
honest.
About the methods. Worry about the results. The fine.
They had that guy fill out a background check before they let him be the tester. And I'll have you know that he passed all of the things. They haven't got the background check back on the background check yet. But
all right, well,
Willie's unique blend of THC, CBD, CBG, and L-theanine delivers a feeling of calm, clarity, or Aunt Clara, calm, clarity, euphoria, and relaxation. Euphoria is that feeling. Take a big old sip of Willie's and then let that $1,000 a night escort do her work. That's euphoria. One shot of Willie's helps you relax
and sitting back, and you will realize that.
Well, that's for the everyman. That's for the everyman that can't afford the $1,000.
And every woman.
One shore, every woman. Well, I don't think the gigolos go for more than $750. One shot of Willie's helps you relax, unwind, and de-stress. Take the edge off the end of a long day, or take the edge off of socializing with friends. Couple shots of Willie's, you won't remember those fucking dicks are even around. And Willie's ships directly to your doorstep in 40 plus states. Remember, there's still a few states they have to go around back. And I'm telling you, they got 300,000 plus happy customers. Avoid them being sold out. You know, they got to enrich this stuff. And it takes time to enrich the CBD and THC. You know, and some people are trying to stop the enrichment. They don't want Willie's to be able to enrich their own THC and CBD. So order now, because you never know when this could be taken away.
Order now, and let's focus on Willie's being there for you in the future.
Yeah, well, and also, you know, he's 90-something. We don't know how much longer he's going to be able to cook this shit. DrinkWillies.com is where you go. DrinkWillies.com. And use the promo code JCE. You're going to get 20% off your first order plus free shipping on orders over $95. So you can see blue skies smiling at you and live like a legend with Willie's.
All right, back to you, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just pontificating on hanging out with good old Willie. But anyway, let's go back to Unreal, because the next episode 2, for those of you keeping track, at least they were still moving in the early episodes. We don't get to drag in here for a little while, but the concept of the whole show again to me is, why show people this much, taking all the mystery out, they still illustrate that things happen, but the best stuff is they're showing that they laid it out, every gesture, every move, even things you would think would be, you know, just the product of happenstance. Oh, it was carefully choreographed. And they went into the history of Cena and Punk at the top of the program. And then they, you know, went into where they left off last time, Seth's shoulder being hurt. And then detailed the formation of the Vision. Somebody even said snake bit, which is what we said. They were snake bit. It was to build to Braun and Seth. But then when Seth got hurt, they moved it up, and Braun speared him. But they showed the Vision walking through that whole thing. And then they showed the turn going exactly as planned. And then they go back to the writer's room, to the land of woolen sweaters. And they decide to put the belt on Punk.
Except Triple H. Everyone is dressed like, like they're on a corporate field trip. And Triple H has like a shirt open. He's wearing a leather jacket. It's ridiculous.
Well, he's a gimmick. And look at the way Michael Hayes is dressed. Even though that is technically a jacket, pants, shirt, and tie, do you call it a suit?
I think one of the saddest things in wrestling history, they should do a Dark Side of the Ring episode on why Michael Hayes stopped dressing like he was in rock and roll and started dressing like a zoot-suited pimp with no hose. Why?
Because they were going to do the reveal on TV. They found out he was Cab Calloway's illegitimate grandson, but then Cab Calloway got hurt. They had to change it. We found out that Liv Morgan has a place in Florida with cows, chickens, and a mule. And she got dive bombed by hornets in her she's got a ring in her outbuilding. I don't know. I don't want to call it
that was kind of shed. Cool. I thought that was kind of cool.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then she hurt her shoulder. But then she came back at Survivor Series and kicked Cena in the balls and went back with Dominic.
Did someone get hurt in every episode of the series? Because there was episode 1, episode 2.
Yeah.
I can think of another one coming up. Another 2 coming up.
Yeah. And
another 3 coming up. There's 3 more coming up.
3, yeah. And there were people that got hurt that they didn't even cover. The Cena's final match, the Saturday night's main event, the Stars versus the NXT guys. They did a piece on Stu, the camera guy, and had the relationship they've had over the years with him and Cena. And I mean, they're just all so happy. When Gunther choked out Cena and Cena, but the death of this character, my God, can we please hook another tank of farts up to you, John? He can't even say me. It's me. It's me. It's Ernest T. That's how I wanted to go out, he said.
The death of this character who will return like in a month at the next pay-per-view.
Yes, just because he's not wrestling doesn't mean he's dead. It just, again, that's why I explained the at peace expression. And I was just like, my God, they ought to issue a smug alert.
That's funny.
I stole it from South Park. South Park did it first. But that's really episode 2. They got that in, but it was, and also we found out Triple H's personal trainer found Liv Morgan at Hooters, and now she's been in the WWE for 11 years. So that was meant to be.
She turned herself into one of the best performers, to use one of their terms, in the entire wrestling business. She almost makes some of that Judgment Day stuff worth watching. She's good in the ring, has a great personality, never breaks on camera. She's always in the moment. Also, possibly batshit crazy based on, her farm. Yeah. But, she does a good job. She's one of the more enjoyable people in the wrestling business to watch. She just does a good job with everything.
Well, I wish I could say that for all the people putting this show together, but that was episode 2. And again, except for, as we will get to, the emotional piece I think they did on Larry, which got to me. A lot of the rest of this is filling time and just hugging each other.
With the Cena stuff, do you see what I'm talking about when I say it feels like they're booking for this show rather than, like, Cena can make sense of his stuff in explaining it in this retrospective documentary of this contemporary period of time. But watching it live happen, you're like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
What is happening? They bring up that people were so upset that he lost the last match. And then Cena's just like, well, I decided this is, like you said, the death of my character. What a perfect way to go. Maybe he overthought it. Maybe the problem was he had way too much time to think about this. And your point earlier about him and AJ, but it's not just them, it's across the board. When you plan the match to that extent in advance, and you're not going to feel the room, and it doesn't count to say, like, I knew to hold back long enough so the audience peaked, and then I did the next move that we had pre-planned. That's not the same thing as getting an audience going and letting them kind of get into the energy, and, the wrestlers feed off the audience and the match becomes a different animal, as opposed to they're going to do what they're going to do no matter what. Hopefully the crowd will be with them, and if they are, the match will only be longer because the Vince McMahon way is just stand there and milk the moment as long as you can and then do something.
Well, but now let's be fair. They did call one audible. Remember when the spot, and I remember seeing it, where the people started chanting 619, 619.
That's right. Yes.
And Cena called that because AJ was like, I've never seen him do that before, but Cena, as he put him over the ropes and clotheslined me so he wouldn't have to try and look like an idiot. And that's, they're pros. They've been doing this a long time. They can. It's just that anymore, it's a controlled performance rather than the kind of the last true make this shit up as you go along type of thing. But which is ultimately, I never wanted to go in the ring without a finish. That made me nervous. I'm like, is everybody going to get this? But otherwise, you're just kind of going with the flow and seeing what happens. And it would be kind of boring if you knew everything you were going to do every night before you even went out there.
See, I don't think you can call it Vince's Jedi mind trick if John Cena's like this. It's almost like the other way. Like Vince was Emperor Palpatine. And John Cena is Anakin, who becomes Darth Vader. And he's just stuck in this Vince McMahon way of thinking and talking and dressing. But like a Bruce Pritchard justifying things in the Vince McMahon way.
Yeah, it wasn't an ICOPRO bar. It was a bar of space spores to take over his mind.
Man.
Well, there you go. Well, that was episode 2. And since that was the first 2 episodes and there's 3 more to go, we are going to continue this journey through hysteria on the drive-through in a few days with episodes 3, 4, and 5. Because if you haven't seen them all yet, and it's quite a slog, I don't want to spoil everything for everybody. So we'll come back with our impressions on the rest of them on your program, Brian. Does that suit you?
I think that suits me. I think you're asked to do a lot when you have to watch 5 hours of this in the same week you have to watch all the other usual stuff and do the usual stuff. So I think the extra time is good.
And the unusual stuff, too. Speaking of that, we'll also on the drive-through have the AEW pay-per-view seen by many millions. But we, speaking of AEW, want to close up today with a couple of thoughts about, and only a couple of thoughts about last week's Dynamite, because I'm getting to the point again where I just can't. But again, there was a couple of things that you just can't not make a comment about because I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. And the show started with Kenny and Ospreay, who are allegedly going to be the main event at Wembley Stadium. They're in the back just doing a promo again. They're just kind of doing the little joking lines with each other that may have a little point to it, whatever. But it's 2 fumbled mouth guys trying to do material, and they do that. And then Moxley walks in, Dick the Boozer, like a troll that lives under a bridge that pops up to say some gibberish or make a mean face or something. Whenever anything is going on, is he like the Forrest Gump of their angles? He's got to pop up at everything.
I'm like a fortune cookie on meth.
Yeah. He's like, there's a lot of tension in here or something like that. And they're like, well, there wasn't until you came in. And now they're all in a 6-man tag. Ospreay is not only teaming with the other top babyface that is his opponent, the world champion, but they're both teaming with Moxley, who is a heel who broke Ospreay's neck and put him out, and who is obviously had many issues with old Kenny in the past. But now they're at a 6-man tag team match against 3 members of the Don Fallis family for our main event. Your thoughts, if any, on before we move on the opening promo and why the fuck that they can't just go ahead and shit in Ospreay's mouth while they're at it? Because they make him look like an idiot every week.
You know, and I'm actually someone who thinks Omega and Ospreay, for their fan base, is just such a big deal match. It doesn't need a lot of stupidity. These weird love triangle segments where the two guys are having this earnest talk, and then, all right, here's your weirdo roommate. He's here again. And Moxley comes in and just, you know, like Cincinnati Confucius, just out there talking gibberish. Like, clearly not something anyone says on the fly. Clearly not something that anyone just whips out. Something that's planned and thought about, like, this will sound great. I'll say this shit. And then he comes out there and says it. Sometimes it looks like Ospreay can't even keep a straight face. There is, you know, a very simple road. There was a very simple road to get to Ospreay versus MJF. And there's an equally simple road for Ospreay Omega. And the bigger story is Ospreay and Moxley down the road.
Oh, good Lord. We have to look forward to that, huh? So he'll finally smarten up and say, you know, maybe I shouldn't have trusted that guy that broke my neck and tried to end my career for the last year while he was talking to me like a fucking punk and telling me every move to make.
I mean, or it goes the other way. He steals the Death Riders.
That would be petty theft.
They become his Death Riders.
Well, let's ride on, because Kevin Knight is now going to be challenging Kenny. Apparently, that's going to be Kenny's title defense before Wembley Stadium. He's going to be challenging Kenny on the pay-per-view this weekend. So they had a TNT title match with Knight defending against Darby Allin. And I guess they just figure now everybody just needs to beat the fuck out of Darby, and they'll all get over, because they come out for the match. Darby did a dive before the bell, knocking Kevin Knight over the rail. They had a fight in the people. They came back to ringside. They had more fight on the floor. Darby dove off the top of a ring post and clotheslined Knight back out over the railing through a table. And they fought for 2 minutes. Then they rolled into the ring and the referee rang the bell to start the match. And then as soon as the bell rang, they neither one touched each other in the ring. They left the ring and fought up the ramp so they could take more bumps over the rail. And then Kevin Knight lost a fight with the ring steps, trying to put him in the right place so that he could boomerang Darby up under the steps into the fucking thing, which was a great visual. And he knocked the top of the steps off and he got some color for it. That would have been a wonderful angle to goddamn, hurt some babyface and him want to get even for it, right? But finally, they fought for 2 minutes. Then they rang the bell to start the match. Then they fought outside the ring for 2 more minutes. Kevin Knight did that to Darby. And then they got back in the ring and kept going. And I said, I'm going too. I'm going to the fucking finish. So I fast forwarded. And after a total of about 15 minutes, they put Kevin Knight over because he's the TNT champion and he's going for the world title. So he hit Darby in the head with a title belt. Then he hit him with a coast-to-coast drop kick. And then he hit him with a splash off the top. And that was just barely enough. And that was the first match. And then because everything has to happen. Music starts playing, and Kyle comes out, Kyle Felcher, our friend in the Callis family, and he's looking daggers at Kevin Knight. And then more music plays, and here comes old Okada, and he's looking at both of them, Kyle and Kevin Knight, and they're all heels, and they're all in the same group, and they don't like each other. Before we get to the promo afterwards, after the break, which they went to at this point, Brian, your closing thoughts on this big match.
You know, Darby, I was thinking about it the other day. He's one of my favorites in AEW. I enjoy the car crash matches with him. He somehow is more realistic in these matches than anyone else is in any other match. You know he's getting fucked up. And he keeps
because they're really doing the shit to him.
The Kevin Knight push is bizarre. I mean, he's getting pushed, and I think the fans are accepting the push. But he turns heel on Speedball, joins the Callis family, and then he immediately starts a problem with every other member of the Callis family.
Yeah, that's what it came. I'm not saying that I'm against any of this, but they turned him heel, then put him in a fucking group where he's mad at everybody in the group, and he's getting lost in all this other shit that's going on all around it. He didn't suddenly turn and have a new attitude and start winning matches. And, he won this one, but I'm talking about a continued sustained push where you're winning matches, you're beating people without having to go to all these goddamn links so that when you finally do, it means something. They turned him heel on an undercard fucking tag team partner who if you asked any grown adult man in the world, they'd say, I can't believe it took him that long to beat the shit out of that little troll. Goblin motherfucker. But he's in the middle of all this other shit, and the other people are bigger stars. So I don't fucking know.
Goblin motherfucker. I think that's the big takeaway.
Goblin motherfucker. And then that was the thing. They came back from the break with the whole Don Fallis family doing an in-ring promo, and Kyle's spent time screaming at Knight. All the baby faces are just stooges and limp dicks, and the heels all don't like each other. All right. Anyhow, moving on, I have thoughts about this. Poor Mick Foley. And I wouldn't.
Poor Mick Foley.
I wouldn't even have really.
This is his dream segment, standing in between two women. Get out of here.
Well, no, but seriously, there could be a way that he could actually be on this program and it be good, and they might make a little money with it. They've got him doing interviews, and first of all, I don't know who blocked it out, but he's standing on the ramp looking at the entranceway with his back to the entire building of people. And I can tell you from having been in that position as an interviewer or an interviewee, it's hard to turn your back to all the people you're trying to get a reaction. I don't know why they blocked it out this way. But also, he's the interviewer. I'll tell you what happened, and then I'll give my thoughts on it, like I teased earlier in the program. He introduced old Thekla, who came out with Julia Hart and Blue Sky. And then Thekla sends them back once we've seen them. Okay, go back now. And then Thekla introduced herself, and she has 2 belts. She's got a Stardom belt now. Again, what? The only way to devalue something is to have more supply than demand. Why do we take any title match seriously when everybody, men, women, children on this show have multiple belts from multiple unheard of independent promotions, along with this heard of independent promotion? And then Mick introduced Willow. And Willow comes out and took the microphone from Mick. Now, both of the talents have a microphone, but the interviewer is just standing there. He has no microphone. Unless he snatches it, he can't interject. While they talk to each other, Willow, who did her memorized statement, she spoke it well, but you could tell she's still at the point where she's studying this like it's a goddamn speech in class. And Thekla's style is that she's drunk off her ass and having a fucking ball.
You know, it makes these segments more enjoyable when you realize she acts like you said, like she's having a great time, and makes you have a great time.
Yes, I mean, she's got something. And I don't know if she'd be that much fun if she was really drunk, but I'd like to find out sometime. But nevertheless,
what is that?
While they're going back and forth, poor Cactus just has to stand there and stare at them like he's watching, Roosevelt and Stalin and Churchill at Malta lay down these world-shaking events. He's staring at them intently because he can do nothing else. And it kept going because they were going a while. And finally, Mick took Willow's microphone back and said that they had a lot in common, he and Willow, and was trying to tell one of the stories that he's good at. But then Thekla insulted Mick and Willow took up for him, and they started going back and forth again. I wrote Thekla's a hoot. But finally, Thekla slapped Willow, and Mick had to get in the middle and try to hold him back like he's Dana White at the press conference. And while he's doing that, Thekla reaches around and hits Willow in the head with a microphone. So Mick was used as a distraction to handicap the babyface. And then she took a pants belt off, the belt from her leather pants, and was going to whip Willow, but Willow pounced her and Thekla bumped out on the floor and Willow was in the ring and Mick was fucking gone. Okay, like you said earlier, when you said, well, Kenny and Ospreay to their fan base, that's a big match. Okay. Let's remove every criticism I have about the style or the booking or the indie stuff they do in AEW. Let's say that we all love AEW, but we can also all agree that Mick Foley is the biggest name wrestling star on the program. More people have heard of Mick Foley than anybody else on this show, and that's not even an insult. That's just stating a fact. So if Mick Foley is a big star, you want to use him to his best ability and portray him in his best light and hope that people that have watched him for so many years will want to watch this show to see Mick Foley. And I know that Mick, he likes all the young wrestlers and the modern wrestling. And I know he's going to try to do his best with whatever he's given. But remember, I said the greatest football player doesn't make the greatest football coach. Sometimes big stars at something, whether it be acting or music or whatever, are not necessarily just fun to listen to on the radio. Mick Foley, as great a talent as he was, is not an interviewer. And he shouldn't be put in the position of being the straight guy. The interviewer is the guy that fills. When two guys are having an argument, if I was which I have been many times, if I was the interviewer person, I might say, oh, come on, you don't mean that. His mother is not a whore. And it's right back to the other guy. And you go back and forth. You just kind of direct it, but you stay out of as much as possible. You give the details if the wrestlers in question aren't great extemporaneous speakers when they get bogged down in the minutia of promoting something, day, date, place, time, method of operation of getting the tickets or whatever. That's what you do. Mick is a personality unto himself, and to tell the long stories that he's known for that get over, or to cut the fired up promos that he's known for to get over, or to just be Mick Foley as a personality you would want to see rather than a guy standing there with nothing in his hand except his dick. We've said before, Tony needs a promotional representative. I don't care whether you think authority figures are overdone, whether he's a general manager or commissioner, some of these terms are passé. Instead of having two guys go out there and do kind of a okay interview, and then 13 seconds later, Tony Schiavone says Tony Khan over my headset just okayed that match. Have Mick be the spokesman for Tony. You can't mean to tell me that Tony Khan wants to be the booker and the boss and the guy recognized for signing these matches so badly that even on his TV program, he wouldn't acquiesce to the fact that Mick Foley can probably cut a better promo than he can. And you bring in Mick and what, Brian, in baseball, there's the players union, right?
Right. Most powerful union in sports.
What is the players union representative called? Does he have a title of any kind, or is that it?
The owners call him Satan.
Well, but you know what I mean.
Union leader.
Well, see that what if to be progressive, if Tony Khan announced that Mick Foley was coming in to be, because of his unique experience for so many years at such a high level with every style of wrestling, that he is going to be the liaison between my company, the corporation, the business offices, and the wrestlers on the roster. He's going to be the wrestlers representative, whatever they want to call it. Because he knows all the tricks and he knows how to get around them and he knows how to keep order. And so if guys have a problem, he's going to be one to help arbitrate it. If guys are challenging for matches, he's going to be ones to help get them signed. He's going to make important announcements. Then he can be Mick Foley and he can interact in promos with the top talent and help get them over and help get the issue or the match announcement over. But what good? I mean, would it be better in your opinion? Tell me if I'm wrong, but would that be a better role for Mick to play than just interviewing people?
Well, I don't know. He still hasn't morphed into Dude Love. So, I mean, there's a lot to be done.
Maybe then he'd have more fun with Tekla.
Last time we saw him interviewing people, I think it was the Callis family, who at least you could say a few of the 20 members are kind of slotted in top positions or almost there.
Yeah.
They put him out there for the Women's World Championship interview. No disrespect to the women here on the show, but, you know, like you said, it is Mick Foley. If he wants to do stuff and he's available to do stuff, and you could do just about anything outside of physical stuff right now with him.
Right. Take
advantage of him on the mic, and like you said, even at this late age and looking grayer than he has in the past, it's him. You know who it is. It had to be something else. Yeah, I think it's a fair argument.
Well, and even when he interviewed,
I don't know about commissioner. You know why? Just because he's at this point he moves so slow. Like the commissioner role has become like someone has to run out on stage right away and make a declaration.
No. Well, but see, it's not. He doesn't even have to run out always in times of crisis. He can just be the guy to come out and make an announcement from the company. But I just think that some way to put him in the middle of the wrestlers roster and the administration of the company to let him be the spokesman to settle parts in both ways. If the guys want a match and they pitch it to him, he can go to Tony and try to, etc. At least it would take advantage of his verbal talents and his name recognition. And when he was interviewing the Callis family, that was even better because it was one entity, one group, a lot of people, but one group that he's going back and forth with. Whereas here he was reduced to refereeing between the girls and had really no place to, jump into it on either side. He was relegated to just being the Tony Schiavone stand there, not even holding a microphone.
But the other problem is, to what you said, I think it'd be good if someone like you was there to produce the segment. Because I think, like a lot of guys in AEW, Mick's going to get his ideas out there, and I personally wasn't crazy about the this sock versus this sock promo.
Yeah.
With the heels. To me, it wasn't the time, it wasn't the place, and didn't seem like it needed to be shoehorned into this segment at all.
No pun intended about his shoes.
See, that's the only thing I always thought. And maybe it's because when I was growing up a wrestling fan, Cactus Jack was a thing. It wasn't even Mick Foley yet. But he's never just a serious character. There's always like a wink.
Too cute sometimes. Always. There's always a wink.
Not sometimes, almost always, it seems like. Almost always. And I thought serious Mick Foley, serious Cactus Jack was the best.
Yeah.
ECW stuff wasn't great because he was silly.
Well, speaking of silly, we come now to our main event 6-man tag team match. Kenny, Will Ospreay, and Dick the Boozer against Brian Cage, Johnny Doyle, and Chia. And so again, you have not only your top babyface, Ospreay, that's about to win the title at Wembley Stadium in front of his home country, teaming with a fucking heel, just an unrepentant asshole, Moxley, but also the guy that broke his neck, but also now Kenny's teaming with the heel. But Kenny's wrestling Ospreay and then the other guys are there. So this was a puppy match. Do you know what that is, Brian? That's a match where I play with the puppies until the finish. Because I know that the 19 run-ins are going to be the story here. So Ospreay and Kenny each hit their finishes on Chia. At the same time, the elbow and a knee lift, 1, 2, 3. He's allegedly a champion of something in Mexico, isn't he? Or he's got some kind of belt, didn't they say?
CMLL World Champion, was that it? Or was it something else?
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, they just beat the fuck out of him. So anyway, then here comes now the big drama of the afterbirth. So Kenny tries to be nice to Moxley, picks up one of the many belts that are laying around and going to hand it to Moxley, but Moxley is a dick. And so he just shoved Kenny. And then Ospreay tries to get in it. Come on now, you guys beat it. Why he's trying to smooth anything over between these two, I have no idea. But then, did you see the spot where Kenny, and I put quotation marks around this, where he pushed Ospreay and Ospreay went down?
I did. I saw all of this, yes.
What the fuck did they think was going to... It's like they walked through two different things, or maybe Kenny put his hand on Ospreay's back like the lightest of shoves, and Ospreay went down like they jerked the floor out from underneath him, to the point where it looked weird and nobody popped because nobody got it. It's like, my God, is even a sniper in the building? I'm thinking, did they have a spot planned where something else was going to happen, and Ospreay, having his back toward Kenny, interpreted it as I don't know, but Kenny gave him a little light push on the back when he was trying to separate Kenny and Mox, and Ospreay went down like a man that was hit by a fucking bazooka. And then Kenny is like going, "Oh, I'm sorry. Or did you have a heart attack?" I don't know what he was saying. And Ospreay shoves Kenny. But then here come the Buckaroos to settle things down, because, they're baby faces now. So they're friendly with all these other like-minded limp dicks. So as soon as the Buckaroos come in, like, calm down, Moxley pie faces little Matty down on his ass. And Nick immediately punches Moxley. Osprey tackles Nick. So now Osprey's beating up another babyface because the babyface punched the fucking heel for shoving his brother. And I'm thinking, are they switching Osprey heel? But no, it just makes sense in their minds. So Osprey's beating Nikki up. Kenny pulled Osprey off Nikki. He's always saving these guys. Have you noticed that? He is always pulling somebody off the Bucks.
And then Mega walked out with the dog.
Yes. And that was the worst thing because you don't know how the dog could have whipped all of them. But anyway, so as Kenny pulls Osprey off Nick, Osprey elbows Kenny. Like somebody's behind him, so he just elbows that guy. But in the meantime, Doyle had gotten in the ring and had laid his hands on Kenny from behind, right as Osprey elbowed Kenny. And then it looked to me like that Doyle realized, oh, fuck, I'm not supposed to be in here. And he just dropped down and rolled out. And one of the other heels going, come here. Like, get out of there.
I saw that.
I don't know where he thought he was or what contribution he was going to make in this thing. But it was obvious that as soon as he realized, oh, fuck, they're doing something else, he just left. So then Moxley beat up Matt and Nick was fighting Osprey. But then here came Trent and Rocky, dressed like Don Johnson and the other fucking guy on Miami Vice. And Kenny beat them up for comedy because now they turned it into a funny thing where he beats them up and he sets them both for the fucking little knee lift he gives. And he's patting them on the head and they're making funny, goofy faces because they're all smashed together. And then as Kenny runs and hits the ropes, going to come back and give him that stupid knee lift. Out of the ceiling comes Kevin Knight off the top rope or somewhere and hit Kenny in the face with the fucking belt. And he got juice. He was bleeding. I don't know whether it was intentional or accidental because he didn't really, that was the last thing. And he was just laying there for a minute. He had some blood from the head. But do you even, if I hadn't written this down, would you even be able to remember who the fuck did what to who and why and who is on whose side?
After the Bucks came in, off the top of my head, I didn't remember the order of events.
Yes.
But there was a lot going on and a lot of different
heels are
things.
mad at heels. Baby faces are beating up baby faces. Guys in a main event are teaming with each other. But along with the fucking heel, it's trying to fuck everybody up. It's just gibberish.
Well, another episode of AEW Dynamite, a.k.a. Pro Wrestling Gibberish. And the big
PWG.
There you go. They can rebrand it. And the big pay-per-view Redemption is coming up. That will be reviewed on the drive-thru.
Do you think anybody will redeem themselves at Redemption?
I'm interested in seeing Omega and Kevin Knight. Tekla and Willow I'm now interested in. The Bucks versus Moxley and Osprey I'm interested in less for the match and more, do they do anything else in storyline to move forward the Osprey Death Riders thing? And I don't remember anything else I was too excited about.
Yeah, I think we ought to just, every Thekla match from now on needs to be a bottle of Jägermeister on a pole.
She reminds me of a Luna. Like if Luna didn't have like the lunatic gimmick. If it was just like Luna, it reminds me of Luna.
And Thekla has a slight accent. But, you know, otherwise, yes, she's having fun. Anyway, we hope y'all have had fun, but it's over. Your fun must stop. No fun for you. Fun is stopped until we come back on the drive-thru in a couple of days and then back here on the experience next week where more things will have happened by then that we can have fun with. But in the meantime, no more fun. Fun's out.
Yes, fun is out.
Promise me you won't have any fun?
Fun is out. We are out of time. Listen to the Wrestling News, thewrestlingnews.com, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And we're going to have a lot of fun on the drive-thru, and the summer of fun continues.
And until then, in parting, we wish you love, peace, soul, and thank you. Fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.